Hello. Hello. Hi guys. Hello. Oh, my mouse got really fast all of a sudden. Hold on. Okay, better. Wait, not better. Hold on. There we go. Whew! I was like trying to move my mouse and it was moving like Mach 13,000. You know what I mean? It was just everywhere. It was just all over the place. I didn't know what to do. I lost control. Hi guys. Welcome to the stream. Sheesh. So true. It was going crazy. It was going Mach 32. That's a lot of Mach. You know what I'm saying? Guys, welcome to the stream. Hello, everybody. My name's Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I absolutely love working out, in case you couldn't tell. Guys, welcome in. Hi. Hi. Hello. I gotta like adjust my sitting posture. I had to make sure that I don't have a shrimp position. You know what I mean? Guys, who's excited for stream today? Because I'm really excited. I am genuinely so excited because not only do we get to watch another video about Resident Evil, this time Resident Evil 5, but also we also get to keep playing VCraft Enchanted, which we're gonna do right after we play this video. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. Richie, yippee! Hi Aya, hi Tree, hi Thorn, hi Ivy, hi Bunmore, hi Sugary, hi Mage, hi Moto Mami, hi Dread, hi BB Wolf, hi JF, hi Covey. Did I miss anybody? I'm like scrolling up. I'm scrolling up. Hey JK. Hi Tree. If I didn't say hello to you, hi Skeeter Boy. Hi Baby Dull. I think I got everybody. Did I get everybody? What's up, Desta? Hi. Megane. Oh. 俺は天才です。なるほど。Is that what I would sound like if I was a genius? Oh. 当然だったろう。天才だ。Hi, what's up? Hi. Welcome to the stream. Really excited to play more VCraft today. I'm glad that my voice isn't as sore as it was yesterday, because I was kind of hiding it a little bit because I was kind of hiding it because like I didn't go too hard into the voice that I really wanted to do, and you probably heard me slip back into like normal Roy voice during Minecraft, and I felt kind of bad because I was like, I can't maintain the voice that I really want to do. But now, because I got some voice acting out of the way, and I got some tea, and I got some work done, and I got some rest, of course, I am feeling fantastic. You know? I'm feeling fantastic, so I'm very excited. I didn't see all of last stream. How did it end? I got stuck in a dungeon. Royale was stuck in a dungeon because he triggered a trap. And he had to fight his way out. I had to bust down a wall. It was crazy. Why would Royale kill the sheriff? My Royce? Because I'm a Royce actor? Get out of here. Mods, untie their shoelaces. But no, I'm very, very excited to dive back into that later. If you guys haven't already checked out today's, or I guess yesterday's VCraft VOD, it will be up. The entirety of the VOD series will be there and available for watching as soon as it's done airing. So yeah, I'll have the full thing up. Yeah. I clipped when you fell. When? There's a couple times I fell. Listen, I'm not smart. I'm going to lean into the himbo. I'm going to lean into the himbo allegations and yell a lot more. And maybe flex provocatively, but not too provocatively. It's only day 2. Yeah. From the Sky Kingdom, maybe? Oh, that was a couple times. I did fall from there a couple times. They pushed you off? If you clip that, share it on Twitter. Royale's a very pretty name. Oh, arigato. Royale. 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 Is that a Royale? Like you weren't a himbo? More himbo! I'm glad Royale met so many people. Oh my god, Royale has so many friends. Like Mr. Time. And Mr. Rhymezoim Rhymeka. And Roswell. And Zally. And Zealand. Zealand was cute. I liked him. There's a lot of really cool people that I got to spend time with. So very excited about that. A lot of really fun times. I've heard rumblings of things that I am going to do a little bit more of in game, but I know for certain we have to start preparing for the darkness that comes. The darkness that is rapidly approaching. I'm late, but I made it. Well, welcome. Hi. The sheriff is Briscoe. Yes, Sonny. Sheriff Sonny. I can't, it's hard to comment on stuff without feeling like I'm metagaming, even though I'm not playing right now and I'm not going to be playing for a couple hours. I don't even know what's been going on today. So obviously like I can't even metagame that, but it's almost weird to be a player, but also like an observer because I'm not playing just yet, you know? Will people become corrupted by the darkness? I don't think so. Did I say that? If I said that, that's not what I intended. I don't know what you're referring to. And if it's something that I don't know about yet, don't tell me. No spoilers. A lot of socializing is going on. Yeah, it's been really fun. We've been meeting, I say we. I've been meeting a ton of people, which has been really, really fun. People that I wasn't really expecting to spend time with. I spent a lot of time with Roswell and Relexis. Is it Relexis? Is that how I pronounce his name? Relexis, I think so. I'd like to draw Royale fan art, but I haven't followed the VOD at all. English muzukashii. Don't worry. Don't worry. Nandemo nai. There will be Royale art soon, TM. Maybe within the next 2 days. Relax. Okay, good. I don't know why I was thinking it was Relexington, but I knew it was Lexus in the name and Rolex. I keep messing it up. That's why I just want to keep calling him Mr. Time. But yes, new Royale art will be within probably the next couple of days. Not tomorrow. Thirsty Thursdays is dedicated to Final Fantasy XIV this week. So, does Royale have a sword or are they a bare-fisted brawler? They have a sword right now that was a gift to them by Rolexis, ironically. So he'll probably be using that today. I don't know if there's like a way to train in Fist. That could be pretty cool. Yeah. Urushi. Honto ne. Yokata. Gotta know what your biggest hear me out is. Dusk bunnies that are actually participating in chat, watching stream, and being pognificent in the community. What's up, Ray? Today is my special birthday. Congratulations! Happy birthday! Happy birthday to you! Did I get it right? Oh, I got it. The Honorable Gentleman Fister. Whoa, 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 whoa. These hands are rated E for everyone. But I would love to fight some men. I would love to just throw it down with some men. You know what I mean? I would love to throw it down with some men. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Guys, Yippee! I'm very excited. I don't know how many ways I can just say that I'm excited and that I'm having a really good time playing vcraft with everybody. vcraft Enchanted. It has been super fun. I'm very excited to jump on tonight. I'm almost sad that the scheduling that I set up, because I wasn't super prepared to go into vcraft. I don't think I was so aware of how big it was going to be and how especially how much fun I was gonna have, because I came into it pretty late. I think like a day before Luca made the announcement is when I was added to the server. So I was like, oh, so I got added really late, which is dope. Like, I'm glad that I got added at all, but like I had already made like schedule stuff. So I'm like trying to like fit in as much Minecraft as I possibly can, which is why we're playing Minecraft tonight after we react to this video. And then we might be playing Minecraft tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to be playing vcraft tomorrow night, because tomorrow we're going to try and finish the Pokemon Y Nuzlocke. And if for some reason we can't play vcraft tomorrow, I'm probably going to play vcraft like all day on Friday, like before the stream with Kane and Andrea. So, and then Saturday, I am in a peak tournament. So as soon as the peak tournament is done, I'll be playing vcraft after that. So that'll be really fun too. Yeah. You still did real well. Thank you. I'm excited for this time. I feel like I know the type of character that I'm playing now. And it's really funny because a lot of people that you kind of come across, you kind of like pick up on things that they're playing like, and playing with Relexis a lot, because I was around Relexis for a good chunk of the night, for like 2 or 3 hours of the time that I was playing. And I think we had a lot of really good back and forth. Zally and I had a lot of really good back and forth. Zally the bread man, Roswell and I had a lot of really good back and forth, and being able to kind of like throw things back and forth with each other, and ideas, conversations, even just the way that we played made it way easier to know the direction that I wanted to go in. So I know now at least I can lean into like a little bit more himbo. I have the voice down that I want to do. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to end up making that gym that I initially wanted to, because like that gym is going to be way harder than I thought. I thought it was going to be kind of, I thought some materials were going to be easier to find, but when I did some research, oh, oh, I was not ready for that. So yeah. Is Royale a noble, a commoner, or noble? Or Royale? I mean, he comes from a long line of knights. I did say that. So long line of knights and heroes. So heroics run in his family. We'll say that much. I don't think I ever decided specifically other than that. I'm pretty sure that's all I said. Yay! Somebody said it! Royale with cheese. I saw a clip from I saw a clip from Pulp Fiction, and I was like, oh, I know what I want to do, because I immediately thought of the Royale with cheese. A Royale with cheese. So really, really freaking funny. I'm very, very excited that somebody finally said it. If anyone can do it, it's Royale. You're goddamn right. Whoa. My model's giga lagging. What happened? Is it gonna catch up? Huh? Huh? Blah. 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 Okay, I think it's okay now. I think it's okay. Royale with cheese, is that a burger or something? Yes. Yeah, Royale with cheese is a burger. Yeah. I feel accomplished now. Let's go. Hell yeah. What are you zooming? Bleh. 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 I forgot how much my like chest jiggles like from side to side. You know? Anyway, guys, bleh. Let's dive into the video for tonight, because as soon as we're done with that, we're going to dive into more vcraft Enchanted. Meow. Meow. Sorry. Do I have the video up? I had the video up. I no longer have the video up. I found the video. There's a quad. Okay. I found the video. Shkapow! Double shkapow! Double shkapow! You know what I'm saying? Tell them I'll play the video at 2x speed. No, but I probably won't be able to pause as much because it is an hour and 40-minute long video. You know, and I'm kind of like, man, I'm excited. Listen, don't get me wrong. It's not the video. I'm excited for the video. Your favorite son has been nothing but amazing for letting me and you guys react to their content. I am just sad though, because I really just want to play vcraft. You know what I mean? I just want to play vcraft. I just want to be an adventuring hero who's trying to save the world. And who likes to show off their muscles. And maybe spreads the gospel of Yahweh. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right, guys, let us dive in. Let's have some fun. This beat is sick. Close dish. And then we're going to pause la musica. Yeah. After replaying it with Shia, are you a RE5 enjoyer or hater? I think it's somewhere in between. Yeah, let's dive in. We'll talk about this before we actually get into the video. We'll go like a frame or two forward. That way it's not just a black screen. There we go. So RE5 aged kind of awkwardly. Also, hi Bubsy, welcome in. RE5 aged kind of awkwardly. Shia and I had a blast, but oh, that snuck up on me. Oh. That sneeze scared me. Okay, listen. I wasn't expecting that sneeze to be that. Okay, listen, guys. Shut up. Okay, shut up. Okay. RE5 was very, very fun. I played it with Shia. Shia is one of my favorite people in the world and love him to death. He's super hot and sexy too. Those are added bonuses, you know, that's not the main reason I love him. But I think when you stop kind of glazing a game for being fun because you're playing it with a friend, you know, because like there are so many air quotes bad games that are fun because you play them with friends. And I think judging a game based on whether it's good or not only on if you had fun is not the way to go. It does help, and it is an important determining factor of whether a game is good or not. However, Resident Evil 5 is more than just that. And I think by the end of it, Shia and I were both kind of in the same ballpark of we had fun with it, but we very, very much were able to determine what the obvious flaws were. Basically, no characters matter in this game except for like Chris and Wesker. Like Chris and Wesker are the two main characters of this game. It's not Sheva. Jill kind of gets shafted. She's more of a plot device than a character. Sheva gets zero character development at all. She gets one like moment where she's like, these are my people. Like, I'm going with you. And then never does anything like air quotes meaningful for the rest of the game. But it's like, it's not that I dislike Sheva as a character. She's just not written well. She has zero character development. She has zero personality. She never comes out of Resident Evil 5. Genuinely, Chris is the only Resident Evil character to survive Resident Evil 5 in terms of making it to another game. Chris is literally, think about this for a second. There is not another single character in Resident Evil 5 that is in another Resident Evil game timeline-wise other than Chris. Chris is in 6, Chris is in 7, and Chris is in 8. Jill has not come back. Josh has not come back. Wesker has not come back. Excella has not come back. Sheva has not come back. So, It is a damn shame. And that is like I think a big thing. Where we kind of make that joke of Resident Evil loves to air quotes soft kill its cast off. Because like you even see some of that in Resident Evil 4. You know, Leon eventually comes back. Ada eventually comes back. But like literally this game and Revelations, it's just, you know, I mean, he punched a boulder to death. Of course he would survive past this game. That's true. That's true. Hope a remake comes out, they fix some of that. I hope so. Let's see if RE9 Requiem fixes that. I mean, I don't think it would. I think an RE5 remake would fix a lot of this. But I think regardless, I think RE5 is in that realm of this is a good game, but it's very flawed. And I super agree with this title. Flawed and fun. It is an incredibly flawed game. But it is such a fun experience. Genuinely a super fun time, especially when you have a co-op partner to play with. So, Wesker needs to stay dead, though. I agree. I concur. So, all right.
There's a
there we go.
quiet damnation in having to follow a stellar act, an expectation from the audience.
That is the other problem, that RE5 comes out after RE4. You know? RE4 being an almost perfect game, being a 9.5 out of 10, a 9 on a bad day, a 9.5 on a great day. But RE5 is not that. So, ooh.
The headliner that plays after the shockingly good opener, the main event match that just can't gather the crowd after the battleground of tables, ladders, and chairs that came before it.
Also, this is such a weird scene that's like, this is such a weird moment in the game that I feel like never gets. What was the point of this scene? To show that Sheva doesn't take no shit? Because, like, it never comes up again. She never has a moment of, like, well, I'm strong. You don't have to worry about me, you know? Unless she actually says it to Chris, where she says, I'm not as big as you, you know? I seem to have missed hearing that cute sneeze while I was momentarily away from here. You should ask Thorn. I think I saw that Thorn clipped it.
That came before it. The finale episode that can't quite match the energy of the climactic and emotional one before. That doesn't mean that...
Yeah, but it's not a finale. I guess at the time it was the most recent Resident Evil, so...
What comes after is necessarily worse, but it almost requires a different eye. Resident Evil 4 set the precedent incredibly high.
Exactly what we just
franchise. A new evolution for the genre and series.
Sheva felt like eye candy at some points. I mean, to be fair, Shia and I also picked the most provocative, eye-catching outfits possible because we were both just being silly. But even so, like... I don't know if I agree with... Maybe it's just the angles that the camera picked at times. But then again, like... I mean, Revelations came out after this, but Revelations giga-sexualized Jill as well. It was almost weird. Especially, and Jessica and Rachel, you know? It's very weird.
It carved a new path forward. New tools were used. New areas
kind of like seeing the cutscenes with the normal costumes.
How
yeah,
are
right?
you supposed to follow that? How are you supposed to manage to live up to that expectation? The answer
These pillars,
is,
dude.
you can't.
Yeah.
In this way,
unfortunately,
Resident Evil 5 was sort of given a raw deal, fated to be misremembered and underrated, no matter how good it could be.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily just because of it coming after Resident Evil 4, though, but I digress.
In isolation, the game is pretty great. Does it stand up to the likes of 4 or the Resident Evil 1 remake? Not at all. But it does manage to put its own twist on the action genre that Resident Evil 4 set up in the last entry.
Ooh, twist on the action genre? I mean, the co-op part of it. I think the co-op aspect of Resident Evil 5 is the best part of it. When you play with a friend, the inventory management back and forth is so good.
The melee system is extrapolated upon to include more combos. The combat is a bit more fast-paced, and the plot is absolutely bananas.
Bananas is correct. Yeah,
While Resident Evil
RE5's
5
plot is
starts out pretty
ridiculous.
grounded, it goes off the rails by the last hour or two. It manages to set its goal early on, to wrap up the history of the series, to uncover its mysteries and reveal
Cool, I'm
where
good, not too
all
much
this
horror. I
really
agree with that.
started.
Yeah.
At the same time, in the present, we are wrapping up Chris's story, Wesker's story, and Jill's. But the game
It's ironic too, because like when you put it that way, this sucks as a conclusion for Jill's story. For Chris, he really is just the action hero. He's fucking what's his name? Why can't I remember the detective from Die Hard? McClane. John McClane. There we go. He's just freaking John McClane. You know? Yeah, thank you. He's John McClane taking on Hans Gruber. You know? It's great. But Jill is like Jill is almost like what's his name? Ellis? The guy that gets shot on the radio and he's sipping the Coke? It's such an unfortunate thing because like Jill is just completely shafted. She does not matter at all. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Wesker's dead. He had a cool story, I guess. Yeah.
game shirks the box that normal conventions try to put around
It sucks. I'm just going to
Like a
complain about that
beast
forever.
Trying to bust open from a cage.
2 days from
Flying steel
retirement.
bars whip past your head, and if the introduction was grounded, then the finale is in space, firmly planted on the moon.
Wait, that's such a fun. Wait, if RE5 is in space, feet firmly planted on the moon, what the fuck is Resident Evil 6 then? Resident Evil 6, not even in the same solar system.
This is some of the most fun that the series has ever had.
I'll agree with
It does
that.
manage to take itself seriously in some parts, though. Themes of
Too
partnership,
seriously.
progress, turning to indifference, and vengeance persist throughout the story.
Something like that.
And while Resident Evil 4 was the first time a mainline game in the series felt like it had a pretty hefty tale, Resident Evil 5 feels like the first time that the series tries to build these characters up with interesting motivations.
I mean, Chris, maybe. Sheva, not so much. RE6 is not an RE game. I mean, it is. It's got Resident Evil in the title. Resident Evil 6 is returning to Earth, but the ship begins to break up in the atmosphere. Somehow everyone kind of survives the incident. Oh, that's kind of funny. I like that. I gotta remember that one. I remember people saying those exact words when 6 came out. It is an RE game, though. It's got Resident Evil in the title, whether we wanted to or not. You know, he went from Bruce Willis, John McClane, combine those names, to freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dutch. Ooh. Kind of see that.
Combining these two, a lighthearted action story with insane twists and set pieces.
Oh my God, the size of his bicep. Jesus. Like, my arms are big, but I don't think my arms are that big. Oh my God. I'm like flexing right now. Jesus.
Pieces with interesting characters who feel like they have depth
Crazy.
makes for an absolute
Arm wrestle time, I get
fantastic
bodied.
time. And
I get
in some ways,
destruction-ificated.
the systems that Resident Evil 5 does use do actually work. The game feels fast-paced, and the hordes of zombies attacking us can
Bro,
get
land a shot.
overwhelming pretty
Please
quickly.
land a
The
shot.
weapons feel good to use. The upgrade system is interesting, and the action is fantastic.
I will say that I do actually genuinely very much like the upgrade system. The upgrade system, very fun. I wish Resident Evil 6 had a weapon upgrade system, but it genuinely feels like none of that matters in Resident Evil 6, which makes me very sad.
But in a lot of areas, Resident Evil 5 feels like a step down from its predecessor.
Yeah.
And that just isn't because the fourth game set the bar so high. It's because Resident Evil 5 makes deliberate changes and removes upgrades that were so welcome in the last game. The attaché case is gone, and Resident Evil once again relies on a system that sees items taking up 1 slot in a 9-slot inventory.
I have very mixed feelings about this because Shia and I ran into multiple occasions where this was kind of a nightmare to deal with, especially because like as we went through the game, we both had 3 weapons and then the 3 ammo types that go with them. And that's immediately we only have 3 slots left, which means usually grenades, healing items, and key items go in those extra 3 slots, which means we were very rarely ever holding more than 1 to 2 healing items at a time. The inventory ended up being very tight, and we definitely ran into that problem. And I didn't think we were going to. I think I was just too used to having an infinite rocket launcher and not needing any other weapons. How long between 4 and 5? Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005. Resident Evil 5 came out in 2009. And both of them take place in those respective years. So, yeah.
The merchant is gone, and buying and selling is now relegated to one screen in between chapters. The treasure system has been nerfed, with the player no longer allowed to combine treasures for bigger rewards.
Yeah, that sucked.
There certainly
did
are
suck.
drawbacks to this game.
I thought 4 was 2004.
May
May have taken place in 2004, but it came out in 2005.
It gets so much right in tone, story, and lore that I just knew I was going to love it. The game knows exactly when to take itself seriously and when to just have some fun. But with serious problems holding it back, that means that Resident Evil 5 becomes sort of a mixed bag. But it was always destined to be this way.
Always destined to be a mixed bag.
That's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'll be dissecting Resident Evil 5 and everything from gameplay to story to mechanics. And if you haven't seen the previous videos in the series, I would highly recommend checking them out in this playlist here.
As we have.
There's a lot of story.
Guys, go check out Your
history
Favorite Son.
leads up to
They
this
do
point.
amazing stuff.
And I will most likely spoil at least some of the previous games in this video, as well as Resident Evil 5.
Yeah. I'll never understand this about video game sequels when it comes to removing the mechanics that were universally loved by the player base for no reason. So, for Resident Evil, it makes sense to a degree. So we made this joke. I think Shia and I talked about it a little bit, where Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica, they're all pretty similar. You know, you've got your standard inventory, you've got your standard array of weapons, being able to hold, a certain amount of things, key items, weapons, healing items, that kind of stuff. And then progressing with a very, very tight camera in tight corridors, fighting hordes of undead. Very, very similar. And then we got 0 and 1 remake, which were, returned to form. They were very much, it's Resident Evil 1 remade, and 0, very similar. 0 tried to change a few things, which were not enjoyed, unfortunately. And then 4 really broke the mold. 4 went crazy with it. However, I made this observation that Resident Evil 5 could have benefited from being closer to Resident Evil 4 instead of making that huge divergence. Like Code Veronica did jumping to 4, or like 0 did jumping to 4. And I think that's maybe Capcom was afraid to do the same thing again with 4, because that's what happened before. It left them in a sort of weird catch-up period where 1 was good, 2 blew it out of the water in terms of sales and popularity, 3 not nearly as good. Code Veronica not nearly as good. 1 remake still hailed as one of the greatest horror survival games of all time. 0 not nearly as good. So they kept seeing diminishing returns and following the same formula. So they were like, oh, why don't we change things up? So I think that's why, but it was too much changed. I agree.
If you enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also subscribe to my Patreon, the link to which is in the description. I've been reviewing the Resident Evil movies over there and have completed all of the Paul W.S. Anderson movies.
Yay!
If you want to lose my mind, it's a really good time.
Oh, Kat, I think I missed your message. Thank you for the tier 1. I appreciate you. All right, I'm going to try and not pause as much and offer small commentary while we play. I'm trying to get into that habit. That way, when I'm ready for the boys, when we come back for Power Rangers, we're not pausing as much. Though we are watching Power Rangers this week with Oshi Sentai V Ranger, where we will be pausing a lot. So
me, your favorite son. And today,
I'd
like to talk about Resident Evil 5.
Please tell me we won't watch the movies. We won't. Don't worry. We're not
After
watching the
the
movies.
release of Resident Evil 4 in 2005, Shinji Mikami would officially leave the Resident Evil series.
He went on
for good.
to
He exited Production Studio 4 and went to Clover
Tango?
Team, still within Capcom.
Oh, wait, I forgot Mikami went to Clover first and then went to God, it wasn't Tango. What was it? What was his studio? Was it Tango? I can't remember. It was within Bethesda. But they made The Evil Within. But I guess that's later. That's like a couple years later.
Mia was already on this team and had created the Beautiful Joe games, which had done very well for Capcom and the game.
I forgot about a Beautiful Joe with
Mikami
Clover.
would develop
I don't know why I
God
just thought it
Hand
was.
while at Clover Team.
Anyway.
And Mia would develop Okami. This output was short-lived, though, because in 2006, Clover Studio was shut down.
Very
and many
unfortunately.
high-profile developers left the company.
Yeah.
Hideki Kamiya, Shinji Mikami, and Atsushi Inaba
So, Hideki Kamiya went on to do Platinum, I believe. Shinji Mikami went on to do, I think it's Tango. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And then I don't recognize this one.
specifically. This was partly due to friction with Capcom's executive rules. At the time, they were requiring that 70 to 80% of new projects had to be sequels to existing IP.
Ew.
Obviously feeling stifled by these directives,
I didn't know
these
that.
developers chose to go their own way.
Oh.
With Clover Team dissolved, a lot of the remaining team members at Capcom would be shifted over to working on Resident Evil 5, which had already started development at this point. The game officially entered production in 2005 with Jun Takeuchi as producer and both Yasuhiro Anpo and Kenichi Ueda as directors.
I'm pretty sure Jun had a hand in Resident Evil 4, so they at least had the experience.
Takeuchi had been working on the series since Resident Evil 1, where he did character modeling and motion design.
Didn't know that.
Anpo had also been around since the beginning, doing programming for Resident Evil 1 and 2. Ueda had joined the series on Resident Evil 3, so while Mikami's departure from the company was a big hit,
Bro, just right on our ass.
there were still a lot of series veterans working on the next game. Pretty early on in development, Resident Evil 5 was designated as a co-op forward game. This meant that while the mechanic was optional, co-op play was a big part of the game's design.
Yeah, you play this game co-op or you just don't play it. I'm going to be 100% so real.
Anpo himself enjoyed the idea, likening it to enjoying the scares of a haunted house with a friend. Despite what most people assumed, Resident Evil 5's co-op system was not developed as an extension of the previous zapping system we saw in Resident Evil 0. It was built from the ground up as its own separate thing.
Zapping? Like bouncing back and forth between the two characters, between Rebecca and Billy, I assume?
While co-op was a large focus for Resident Evil 5, so were the
Capcom,
graphics.
Konami, and Square were
The
going
team
through
at
rough
Capcom
times.
really wanted to push.
Yeah, I mean, 2005, 2006 was kind of a crazy time. Square was struggling with low sales from FF12. And FF11 probably wasn't doing nearly as well as they had hoped. It wasn't the WoW killer that they thought it was going to be. They were starting to work on Final Fantasy 13. Kingdom Hearts 2 was a banger, but literally everything else that Square was touching at the time did not do nearly as well. Mid PS2 era or end of PS2 era was rough for them. Was rough for a lot of companies, honestly.
Boundaries with this entry in terms of
even though we got some bangers,
utilizing
we
the
did
new
get some
hardware
bangers
that the next generation systems, the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 offered them.
Man, look at that
they
skin
could achieve
shine.
A new level of realism.
Sheesh.
This meant character models could.
Why does Josh's face look so much better than Chris's? Look how much more like detailed. I'm not crazy, right? What the hell? Bro, Josh looks so much better. Yeah, Chris looks like Plano. Anyway.
They could achieve a new level of realism.
Spend more time on it, man.
This meant character models could be designed with greater detail. Facial animations were handcrafted at certain
it does
points
look better.
in
That's all I'm
bound
saying.
muscles. The
Josh is a
mocap
beautiful
team
man.
was using new
I'll agree with that.
technology,
I'll agree with that.
including a camera that allowed them to move a virtual camera around and get pinpoint control of the shots in the game.
And this became way more common like this, I think this is an era of like mocap really hitting new heights, because you could see it in kind of like the stunts that we saw as well with like the melee attacks.
This
and
enabled
things
the
like that.
cutscenes to have a handheld feel to them, if that's what was needed.
Oh,
At the time, only
Shia
4 of
pointed
these
this out.
cameras existed in the world, so Capcom was really trying to make Resident Evil 5 a truly big budget game.
Shia
They
pointed
also
that
had
out.
a new engine this
Like the
time
hand
around.
cam.
During development of Lost Planet, Capcom had created
I forgot about Lost Planet. I liked Lost Planet, but I didn't get enough time with it.
an in-house engine called MT Framework. This engine was created because a lot of teams on previous games were using engines that they created for their specific projects. Crafting an engine that could be used across the studio
Would save
would be
money.
particularly useful and efficient at getting people on the same page.
And MT Frameworks is the same engine that was used for Resident Evil 4, 5, Revelations, Revelations 2, and Resident Evil 6. So
This engine was first used for Dead Rising, then Lost Planet, Devil May Cry 4,
wait, it wasn't used for RE4? I thought it was used for RE4.
and then Resident Evil 5.
Whoa. I thought it was used for Resident Evil 4. Maybe it was just they borrowed model animations. Because there's a lot of similarities between how Chris and Leon's bodies interact in taking damage or like getting hit by explosions.
The engine would be updated over the years, but is now mostly viewed as the precursor to Capcom's famous RE engine that they still currently use for development.
I was going to say, RE Engine's fantastic. I'm very glad that they developed that, because the RE Engine is gorgeous, works really well. It's been being used for almost a decade now. Still fantastic.
With around 4 years in development, Resident Evil 5 was released on March 5th, 2009 in Japan, March 12th, 2009 in Australia,
What about the US?
and March 13th, 2009 in both North
Like
America
the same week.
and Europe.
Same week
all for the Sony
ish.
PlayStation 3 and Microsoft's Xbox 360.
Oh yeah, it didn't come out on
The
PC until way
version
later.
wasn't released until 6 months later
Yeah.
in September of 2009.
Not meaning
But it was the
the
version
Steam
of the
version.
game that I played for this video. It's the most easily available version,
Ever since RE7. Yes, RE7 was the first time the RE Engine was used.
and I didn't find anything particularly distinct that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I think it's probably just graphics and then using a mouse to aim versus using a controller. But like even Shia and I both had that mentality of like, I played on a controller, Shia played on mouse and keyboard. I don't think there was any like major anything that we had to deal with. So
It is worth noting that originally the PC version of the game came with stereoscopic 3D, which was provided through the use of DirectX 10.
oh,
This was included in the original games.
That's
for
the
Windows Live
sound,
version,
right?
though, and has since been removed from modern releases.
Wait, isn't that sound?
But it was the first game to be released with full stereoscopic 3D, which is a pretty interesting note for gaming history.
First?
Resident Evil 5 opens with a hooded
Whoa.
figure standing menacingly over a kneeling individual.
Wait, that's crazy.
We see Humvees whipping into towns, seemingly some sort of military presence making a move.
Yeah.
The hooded figure eventually leaves the gentleman on the ground, who is quickly
we're getting into the story
overtaken
now.
by some sort of parasite. We then see our
my hair
main
out of my
character,
face.
Chris Redfield, driving his own Humvee down a desert road.
Driving himself.
His narration sets
Yeah.
up the game. Since Umbrella's fall, which
Yeah.
we covered in between some of the previous games, their bioweapons have now ended up in the hands of various terrorist groups.
I'm so lost and
A lot of
confused.
this stuff
Don't
is
worry.
better detailed
We're going
in
through it now.
files that the game will give us after completing certain chapters.
Freaking Chris's arm looks better detailed than him. Like you can see like the divots in his skin, the imperfections, the veins, like pores, like where there would be arm hair, like how the muscle tends up here but like slides here, and then his face is just like
Are detailed in files
Damn,
that the game will
that's
give
crazy.
us after completing certain chapters.
so muscular. You
but
can see
we'll get
so
there
many differences.
eventually.
Yeah.
The spread of these bioweapons left a trail
Chris
of
looks
fear
bored now.
across the globe, as smaller nations anticipated another Raccoon City-like outbreak and aftermath.
Yeah.
The Global Consortium of Pharmaceuticals, or the GCP, formed
Wait, GC. Okay.
bioterrorism units called the BSAA, which Chris was one of the founding members of. The general
We kind of know this already. I forgot. I think this video came out before the Revelations video, and we technically watched the videos out of order, and Revelations came out after RE5, but takes place before RE5, so the GPD
Goal
or
of
the
the
GPC, I don't even
BSAA
know.
was to send teams into areas where BOWs had been released and neutralize them.
What a
It was
shot.
basically a global peacekeeping mission
Welcome
to prevent
to
massive
Africa.
outbreaks and deaths at the hands of BOWs. In general, I love the idea of the BSAA. It's such a great way to extend the story of the Resident Evil world while also removing it from being constantly tied to Umbrella.
Or to Raccoon City.
Of course, Umbrella were the ones that started all of this, but weirdly, this new storyline feels like it fits in so much with what Resident Evil 4 was trying to set up.
I agree with that.
This is a
I genuinely do agree with that. I think Resident Evil 5 kind of follows that scheme well, because Resident Evil 4 definitely wanted to broaden the scope. You know, we're in Spain. You know, we're fighting monsters. We're fighting a cult. It's not just it's not just one evil organization. Also, Jesus, Chris's arms. It's not just one organization. This is a global threat, and we need a global presence. And you know, Chris just is a familiar face with Resident Evil. It's the story they wanted to tell. Yeah.
New world now, and everything that happened in the original trilogy has had cascading real effects that this world now has to deal with.
Lightspeed
When
rescue
Chris
game
gets
like
into
Resident Evil,
town,
that'd
he
be kind
meets
of cool.
another BSAA operative named Sheva Alomar.
The fact that they had never met before this either is kind of wild. Never talked.
Resident Evil 5 takes place in Kijuju, a fictional African country. Kijuju has had a recent change in government that has caused massive terrorist uprisings in the area. The locals aren't going to be happy seeing Chris here, so Sheva is here to guide him throughout the area.
Has modern RE become the Chris show? Ironically, kinda. Because people always think that Leon is the face of Resident Evil. It's actually Chris. Chris is in more games than any other characters in all of Resident Evil. He's in 1. He's obviously in 1 remake. He's talked about in 2 and in 3 and in Code Veronica. He's in Code Veronica. He's in 5. He's in Revelations. He's in 6. He's in 7. He's in 8. Yeah, absolutely.
As Chris welcomes his new partner to the team, he gets hung up on that.
Is he in Gaiden? I don't think so. I think that's Barry.
Help put them at ease.
I'm sure you'll do just fine.
She'll do just fine putting... partner. Why'd you say that word? Partner.
Sometime between now and when we last saw her, Jill seems to have died, and Chris is still very much mourning his loss.
Oh, yeah, we don't... If you're just playing base game, that's the first time that you know that Jill is dead. If you didn't play the DLC that we played, that I said was very important to play before we started playing the game.
Casualties continue to mount over the long years I've struggled. More and more, I find myself wondering if it's all worth fighting for.
I forgot he said that line at the beginning of the game. I'm gonna...
Maybe one day, I'll find out.
Sheva and Chris are stopped by the local mercs, but are eventually let inside the nearby town.
That's why he says
Chris
that line at
is
the
determined
end.
to complete his mission. The reason
When?
he was
During
sent
the
here
DLC.
by the BSAA. This completes the prologue and begins Chapter 1-1. Resident Evil 5 has a similar layout to Resident Evil 4 in that each section of the game is split up into chapters and subchapters.
It is... I will say, I do wish the game just did chapters. I think chapters with subchapters is, like, stupid. Like, hey, you want to play chapter 5? No, I want to play chapter 15. Come on. I can count past 10.
Kijuju is the setting for the first chapter of the game. A small African city with narrow
I was so glad
streets
they
and
changed that for
tons of
RE4.
small makeshift
way better.
buildings. A lot of the structures in the area have clear additions, jutting out.
Leon's had more
comprised
impactful
of
games.
different materials.
I probably agree with that.
Clearly a community that is
2 and 4
getting by
definitely-
rather than thriving on their own.
I think Leon's been in better games. Resident Evil 2 and 4 are definitely more universally hailed than 1, 5, and 8. if you want to count 8 or 1 Code Veronica 5 and 8, because like people look back at 1 fondly, but they don't look at them in the same capacity that they look at 2 and 4. I'm just saying.
Being pushed into the nearby alleys leaves the player basked in shadow, and while much of Resident Evil 5 is set in the daylight, the game often oscillates back and forth between moments of bright sunshine and periods of darkness, either inside buildings or underground.
I was about to say the
It's
underground
this constant
part.
shifting that creates environmental tension and horror, being railroaded into a tight corridor, forced into a building to defend yourself against the threat. This makes the city of Kijuju a terrifying place. Large open areas give way to railroaded dead-end alleyways and homes with only 2 exits.
Yeah, that was kind of butt from RE. Like that was kind of, it felt like a little bit of a downgrade.
Just like Resident Evil 4, we're often weaving in and out of buildings to get ourselves some space and combat. But similarly to the previous entry in the series, Resident Evil 5 also
dudes, they really
pushes
do.
the outsider theme even further. Chris obviously feels like an outsider in this area, so much
Wish they'd
so
use
that
Jill
he
more as a
needs
protagonist. I
guide
agree.
to take him through it.
Jill definitely
Once
got
again,
shafted.
we are out of place, a foreigner in an unfamiliar land, a
Un forastero.
place that
Once
has
again.
its own problems outside of the
Once again,
coming
un
infection.
forastero.
The outsider distinction makes Chris feel as
When he
if
says
doesn't
Kajuju, I keep hearing Pazuzu. Oh, from The Exorcist. Your mother sucks cocks in hell.
belong, and that is once again an established way to further the horror in
Keep
this
having to
new
adjust my
era of
sitting.
Resident
I
Evil.
don't want to shrimp. I want to
Before
make
we
sure I'm
talk about the
okay.
first chapter,
Oh
of the
yeah, we got to
game,
talk about
we should
that.
probably talk about gameplay in general
Oh.
and how things have changed from the massive shakeup that was Capcom's Resident Evil 4.
That's
Resident
fair.
Evil
That's fine.
5, from a base level, functions pretty similarly to the previous entry.
Yeah.
We have an over-the-shoulder camera that tracks behind our character. The game is more action-focused, with melee combat helping you conserve ammunition,
Kick!
and collecting currency and upgrading weapons is a core part of the gameplay.
Okay, first of all, that shot was so cool.
This foundation that Resident Evil 4 laid out is still there, but the devil is really in the details when it comes to this game. First of
Oh
all,
my God.
combat is just a slight bit faster than Resident Evil 4.
Ooh,
You'll notice as you're fighting
I'd agree
off
with that.
swarms of the infected that enemies are a bit quicker to grab, quicker to attack, faster to lunge. But this is offset by the fact that you have a partner with you at all times.
It does make sense. Give them twice the enemies, make them twice as fast, kind of thing. Yeah.
Probably one of the largest
Listen,
changes that Resident
boo-boo.
Evil
That's
5
true.
makes to its core gameplay
True.
loop. This game puts the focus on cooperative gameplay, a large trend that was already happening around this era. This was largely a phenomenon set by the Gears of War franchise, of which Resident Evil 5 got a lot of comparisons to right out of the gate.
Really? But they're not anything alike. RE5 is RE5. Gears is a gory cooperative cover shooter.
In this title, we mainly play the game
Damn.
through the eyes of Chris Redfield, our main character. He is generally
It did
who
it
the
for-
story
I mean, I
is centered
guess.
around, and his partner, Sheva Alomar, is his partner, but ultimately a side character. We can play the game entirely solo, controlling Chris manually and seeing Sheva operated by an AI, but if we choose to play the game with a friend, then the player hosting the game will play Chris, and Sheva will be played by the joining party.
That is
Most
what we
people
did
consider
with
the
Shia
game
and
to
I.
be much better when playing with another person.
Agreed. You have to play Resident Evil 5 with a co-op partner. If you're not playing Resident Evil 5 in co-op, the game goes down a solid like 2 points. Like genuinely, Resident Evil 5 is like a 5 out of 10 when you're playing it with the AI co-op partner. But when you're playing with a friend, I think it's like a 7.
The full playthrough of the game
But
that
I
I
love
did
it.
for this video was solo, but I did play through the first half of the game in co-op.
Oh.
Shout out to Evan Prince for helping me out with that one.
Oh.
But most of the comments I found online about Resident Evil 5 noted that it was worse when you played it solo.
Yeah.
I can't tell if this is mostly because of complaints about Sheva's AI,
yeah.
or if it was because people had associated the game with the person they had played it with. Faint memories of better times, of connection with another individual.
See, this is what I said too, where when you're playing a co-op game like this, it is sometimes hard to separate the fact that you played cooperatively and your friend made the experience better.
rather than the quality of the game itself.
Yes.
It seems to be some mix of both, but I will mostly be critiquing the game from a solo standpoint.
Okay, that's fair.
I do think that if a game allows you to play it solo, then it should be just as good as the co-op version of the
I agree. It should be. However, that is not the case with RE5.
game. And for the first half of the game,
we're doing well. What's
I
up,
would have told you that Shia's
Kitsunuki?
AI is pretty great, that it mostly protects you and keeps enemies off of you, that it holds up its end of the bargain in taking out foes, that it doesn't really hold back. But towards the second half of the game,
Yes!
this just isn't really true. At a certain point, Sheva just really stops participating in combat for the most part.
Yeah.
Of course, you do have to keep her supplied with ammo. You can trade weapons and items in the new inventory
She's
system,
so
which
bad,
no
dude.
longer pauses while you're organizing your belongings. Everything is still happening in the background.
Which
Sheva will use
it can sometimes be frustrating, especially because you don't get a chance to breathe. And with Sheva being so stupid in the later part of the games, especially while you're dodging gunfire, if she just gets hit, you're in trouble. I just remembered Sheva and Sherry are similar in age canonically. No, isn't Sheva like mid-20s in RE5 and Sherry's only mid-20s in
Who's the
RE6? No. Sheva's at least like 5 years older than Sherry, right? She has to be. Unless Sheva's like 18 in this, but she does not look like 18.
ammunition and weapons that we give her at her will
I could be
when
wrong.
playing on solo. If out of ammo, then Sheva will notify us, and we can give her more.
Give me some
We can
ammo.
also salvage nearby containers for ammunition.
Give me a
It will
grenade.
stop if we approach the same.
Chris asking for a grenade never made me stop laughing. Give me a grenade. He's like, give me that grenade, please.
container. Thankfully,
You know.
Resident Evil 5 does give us the option to toggle friendly fire on or off.
Off,
so
always.
Sheva doesn't have to worry about getting in front of our shots.
Yeah.
Now, overall, I would say that the Sheva AI is pretty good across the board. I mostly say this because
Pretty
Sheva has a
good.
lot to deal with. She has to manage attacking enemies, trying not to get in our way, collecting new ammo, handing us ammo when she's found stuff she can't use, healing us and herself, etc. There's a lot on the AI's plate here.
Oh, absolutely.
And the
there
closest
is.
thing we can really compare this to is the previous game, Resident Evil 4, and
Oh, and just comparing her to Ashley.
Ashley's AI.
Oh.
If you remember, I praised Ashley's AI quite a bit, and I still maintain that it was great. But that's because
least at the
Ashley's
time.
AI had far less to deal with. She was basically just meant to follow us and stay out of the way of
I guess that's
attacks.
fair.
Comparatively, Sheva is dealing with a lot more here. This is
They're
all
both born in 1986, according to RE official lore. And this takes place in 2009. So Sheva is 23 in this. Wait. So Sherry's 11 in RE2, or 11 or 12. But wait, how old is Sherry in freaking RE6? I thought she was only like 20. Damn, maybe I'm crazy.
to say.
I think
that
we're gonna be
don't
playing
put
Resident
too
Evil
much
6 next
negative
week, then.
stock in Sheva's AI sort of
With Shia.
breaking down towards the second half of the game. And really, when Sheva isn't as active, we're just playing the true solo version of Resident Evil 5 when it's just Chris.
Yeah.
It is true that
Also,
Resident
can we go back a second?
Evil version of Resident Evil 5
That is the face of a man who is about to get his face just oh, damn. Holy shit, the big boot.
it's just Chris. It is true that Resident Evil 5 does
saying.
play better when you have two people to actually use the co-op system,
Ah,
but in
fuck.
some ways, that actually makes the game far too easy. The normal mode difficulty for this game is basically a breeze when you play co-op mode. And that
Well, yeah. I mean, you and another smart person playing together, I think that's fine.
actually removes some of the horror from the game. Yasuhiro Anpo specifically said of the co-op system, "I thought of it like enjoying the scares in a ghost house with a friend. He also states that enjoyment comes first with horror, and that to get horror to be effective, there needed to be some enjoyment there to begin with. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to disagree with him on this point. Sure, at a fundamental level, you need to enjoy the game that you're playing.
I mean, I feel like I get it from both perspectives.
But usually horror games utilize the overcoming of tension, fear, and atmosphere to progress the player. Satisfying puzzles, level design, and combat propel the player forward in the absence of traditional enjoyment or fun.
Okay.
Because at its core, horror should be somewhat terrifying, an experience that is kind of the antithesis of fun. I do enjoy the time I spend with games like Silent Hill 2 or Resident Evil 1 Remake, but I wouldn't exactly call those games fun. At least on the first playthrough, they're terrifying experiences.
Yeah.
They're mostly littered with uncertainty.
Especially things like Silent Hill 2. When you play that and compare it to something like Resident Evil 5, obviously very different games. Really wild comparison to make in this regard. But Silent Hill definitely leans more into the horror. Resident Evil 5 is more of an action shooter in a horror-like setting. You know, it's less of a horror game and more of an action game with horror elements, you know?
And even Resident Evil 4
horror is a rough genre to have co-op in. Yeah, I mean, even look at Dead Space 3. Dead Space 3 had the same problem.
There were dark moments when the day turned to night and the Ganados transformed, when the back paths turned to laboratory halls and we were stalked by regenerators.
Human seal safety in numbers, yeah.
But Resident Evil 5 feels mostly devoid of this type of horror. It's still there, but mostly present in the form of intensity rather than atmosphere. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a total criticism. Sure, is there a void where the horror once was? Yes, but the action focus that this game brings does make it feel quite distinct in the overall lineup.
I'll agree with that.
It certainly separates it from Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
I would much...
And especially because of the co-op system and the memories you'll be able to make. You know, instead of, oh, fuck, it was Ashley, it's, oh, fuck, it was Shia. You know, Shia fucking me instead of Ashley.
Much prefer the atmosphere of something like the cramped halls of the first remake or the dark laboratory of Resident Evil 4, but this game's action works to further its story.
Difference of an intimate claustrophobic environment versus a bright, wide open area is always going to clash. Very true.
Fans had complained as early as the demo that moving while shooting hadn't been implemented.
This feels like the game that it should have been added in. It genuinely feels this. I will say that is probably my biggest complaint going back gameplay wise. It feels like it was built to have movement while shooting.
It was more commonplace in this generation already.
Yeah.
We still have what is effectively a merchant mechanic in the game, but instead of encountering the merchant at different points across the story, the merchant mechanic is related to the breakpoint in between each subchapter. Oh, and there's also no actual merchant here. It's just a blank screen. We can still sell treasures that we find here, though, and buy new weapons or upgrade old ones.
I never understand why they killed Liam O'Brien's character in the beginning when he could have just done this. I feel like this just could have been the merchant, you know?
Personally, I think this system is infinitely worse than Resident Evil 4's implementation. First of all, you can't combine treasures anymore, even though the game makes a distinction between larger treasures and small gems. This means that we have a lot less engagement.
Since mechanics were in 5, I believe the game would have aged better gameplay-wise.
I
agree with that.
Keep treasures over the long term. No,
but that's the funny thing,
gratification.
Because I don't remember much about RE6 aside from my big complaints.
Are just
so that's going to be an interesting one to go back to.
One step removed, and at that point, you might as well just replace all treasures with base currency. They only exist at this point for flair. Nothing extra is provided to the player outside of aesthetics.
My gems are bigger than yours.
Also, only encountering the sell screen in between chapters means that we have less opportunities to trade in items and swap things out.
Just restart your checkpoint.
It's less in world.
I agree.
In Resident Evil 4, you were always waiting for the next merchant encounter.
Always.
Waiting for his blue flames to pop up around the corner so that you could get a power upgrade or grab one of those weapons that you traded in earlier. It's even stranger, though, because every time we die, we get access to the cell screen again.
Yep.
No matter where we are in the chapter.
Which definitely makes it really, really awkward. There's like that awkward pacing thing. And I think we talked about this before. Shia and I were talking about how the pacing feels really good in the beginning of the game. And then it kind of just quickly goes off the rails. And this always felt like one of those moments that's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
This system, like many others, just feels like a massive downgrade when compared to Resident Evil 4.
Even though there's a
You could
bajillion
just
more
say,
guns.
Well, don't compare
I
it to
know.
Resident
Also, what's
Evil
up,
4.
Sheba? Welcome in.
But
Thanks for
this
joining.
game truly does feel like the next evolution of that game. You surely can't compare it to the original trilogy of games because it doesn't really resemble those at all.
No, of course
But
not.
It's just also so different from the game that it does so closely resemble.
Why does that happen so often? Can we just talk about this for a second? Can we just talk about this for a second? Why does this happen all the freaking time? Dude is on the ground, gets up, and runs
It does
away.
So closely
It happened all the freaking time. Enemies were so awkward in RE5.
resemble. This also extends to the inventory system, where before we had the attaché
So
case
weird.
providing each weapon and item with its own space allocation.
Bullying your
We
partner.
now just have a 9-slot
It does.
inventory
You're right.
system. Each item takes up the same amount of space, with certain ammunition
He does,
having
you're right.
stack limits.
Maybe to
And
throw
once those
something?
are
No,
hit,
it's just a
new
grabbing
items
enemy.
transfer to another stack. It feels much
crazy.
closer to the systems we had in the original Resident Evil trilogy, but that doesn't exactly feel like it fits here. That would be like making this game have a fixed camera system. That wouldn't exactly fit with the design of Resident Evil 5, so
Not
it
at
wouldn't
all.
be warranted.
Oh god,
But because we
and it feels really awkward when you do force the cameras in the DLC for this game, in the first
We've
DLC.
essentially regressed
Lost in
here,
Nightmares.
it feels like the game lacks something in the inventory realm.
I agree.
I'm sure that this was to simplify
Sheva,
inventory
hurry!
management so that you
Hurry,
could have a
Sheva!
system which forces you to quickly adjust your inventory.
Would
while
you not be
combat
intimidated if you
is
saw
going
Chris coming
on.
at you with those guns?
This does make this action more intense, trying to swap to a grenade while being overcome by a horde, or
You might be
trying to equip a new
correct.
weapon while a boss chases after you.
Oh, wait a minute. Co-op is literally easier as well because you get twice as much money. Because if you're playing with just the Sheva AI, when you sell the items, you only get your money. But if I was playing with Shia, we both were able to sell the treasures because we didn't have a shared money system. So we were both able to upgrade weapons that much fast. Holy shit, I didn't even think about that.
These moments
Whoa.
are fast-paced and reward quick action.
I just didn't even think about
Taking
it.
too long puts you in a bad position, damages your character, and costs you resources. It's a bit of a trade-off of systems, but I really prefer the previous attaché case system. I just really like managing the inventory spaces.
I will agree. I think the attaché system was way better than whatever the fuck Resident Evil 5 has. Because at the end of the game, it's melee vest, bulletproof vest, really, really fucking strong weapon, secondary weapon that is much more plentiful in ammo. Both the ammo types for those, that's 6, and then you have 3 inventory slots for healing, key items, or explosives.
And I think it's a better way of engaging the player than just limiting inventory to 9 slots. Of course, you technically have 18 slots total when you factor in your partner's inventory space.
Yeah, I guess.
But it's just a little bland when you compare it to the depth that Resident Evil 4 had.
Okay.
This game does make some upgrades, especially in the form of melee combat.
Melee is
If you
fun.
remember in Resident Evil 4, you could stun enemies and then follow up with a melee attack.
I love
This,
it.
of course, reduces this amount of ammo that you have to use and feeds back into the action style that both of these games take. Resident Evil 5 has this as well, but Chris has more attacks at his disposal.
Yeah,
than
that's straight.
Leon. He can do an uppercut,
The
a
straight.
a hook, and stomp enemies on the ground.
The stomp.
It's pretty satisfying to combo these attacks together and bash enemy heads in.
And then Sheva is significantly more agile, doing like the backflip, the somersault, the roundhouse. She does a ground stab, you know.
This also greatly reflects the change in Chris Redfield that we haven't really talked about.
Yeah.
maybe you haven't noticed, but Chris is fucking jacked in this game.
Yes!
There's a long-running meme in the Resident Evil community that Chris got so smoked by Wesker in his last battle with him that he started really hitting the weights so that would never happen again.
That is my headcanon. 100% that's my headcanon. I'm pretty sure most people agree. That's why Chris started working out so much more, you know?
But it's very believable that Chris could just straight up deliver a sickening stomp to the head of a Las Plagas infected enemy. Honestly, even more so than Leon. And his new design really makes a lot of the crazy stuff that happens in this game a bit more believable in the long run.
Yeah, because he's massive.
I think overall, though, the gameplay...
Here's a question. Is he natty or not? Okay. So he's either not natty or he's very dehydrated. And that's where I'm kind of like, because I don't think you get veins like that naturally unless you're like dehydrated, right?
Play in Resident Evil 5 is pretty good. It mostly...
Because like, hold on a second. He can't even unbend his arms. Look how slightly bent his arms are comparatively to Shiva's. He can't unbend them. That's not good.
It mostly functions like Resident Evil 4, with changes that, outside of the ones I've already discussed, come in the form of enemy types, boss battles, and later mechanics that we'll get into in a bit.
I feel like when you're exposed to the elements, you tend to get bigger.
The
What
only
elements?
real changes made here are just small regressions, which aren't that annoying, but
He's on the roids. Yeah, it's hard to like say that he's not. It could have just been them going like, this looks cool, but usually muscles I don't think tend to look like that unless you're like an athletic, like Olympic level bodybuilder or like a competitive bodybuilder, or you're dehydrated or you're on roids.
A step below Resident Evil.
The elements of
4.
undead. Ah, yes, my bad.
Starting back at chapter 1-1, Chris and Shia make their way through Kijuju. As we start moving along the streets,
Chapter
we are given
1-1.
a small briefing from Kirk, a helicopter pilot for the BSAA.
Elements being the
Chris
main
and
character.
Shiva's mission
I
is
like
to
that.
help stop a black
That's a good
market
one.
weapons deal that's about to go down in the area.
I forgot that's the
individual
whole
in
reason we're
question is
there.
Ricardo Irving, a notable dealer
Was
in
to
the area.
stop
Since
the black
BOWs are
market
now on the
deal.
Black market, these dealers buy and sell
What?
mutated species as they would guns or missiles. Alpha Team has already made forward progress in the area, and Chris and Sheva's immediate goal is to get their gear along with a debriefing.
Wait, can we talk about...
And Chris and Sheva's immediate goal is to get their gear.
Damn! The way he looking at him like, what the fuck this guy doing here? Why are you in this back alley? This is my place.
Along with a debriefing and meet up with them.
It's fucking
As
crazy.
we walk through the city, we can find the citizens of this town acting quite strange. A group of men nearby are beating some sort of animal in a sack. This is not unlike the burning of the policeman that we saw in Resident Evil 4, not so subtly hinting to the player that this area may have already been infected. Chris and Sheva immediately notice something in the air, though. Passioned Swahili can be heard spoken from a nearby radio. The townsfolk seem to have disappeared. Something is off. Heading into a nearby
Is that the
building,
language, Swahili? It's cool.
we'll meet our
cool language.
contact. He explains the feeling that we picked up on.
Right, an
pretty
animal,
quickly.
yeah.
Everyone is on edge with the new
Have you
government.
played the second DLC, Desperate Escape? I've played it. We did not play it on stream because IMHO, it's kind of dookie. And I don't think it was worth playing with Shia. I'd rather have gotten that extra 45 minutes of sleep.
Political issues in the area. He provides us with our weapons, a pistol for each character loaded with 10 bullets, and a pack to carry everything in.
And that's
the
it.
contact tells us to head to the town square and
that's it.
meet up with Alpha Team at the deal
Prepping
location.
him for a tire necklace? That's crazy.
He also clues us into another lead. Project Ouroboros, a rumored doomsday virus, seems to be a reality. Irving, the man involved in the deal, seems like a good lead to the project, and we might be able to get some information from him.
The new shirt that Chris gets too is kind of crazy, right? Because he didn't have that on. He had like a tee and a button up.
With that,
Damn.
he disappears, leaving only parting words of caution.
You must find a man named Irving. is our only lead.
She's our only lead.
And be careful out there.
Be careful out there.
Just outside
I
of
love
this
you, Liam
building,
O'Brien.
we see another animal killed.
Oh my gosh.
seemingly
That was
with
an under?
arrows
I
or
didn't think it
sticks of
was.
some kind. And in the next building, scenes of gore and viscera left out on the table. In the next house, we're treated to a particularly grotesque scene. A man is shoving a live parasite into another man's mouth.
I kind of wish they would have shot and stopped him. You know? It would have been nice to see somebody that like wasn't infected. I think every single local that we meet is infected. Just like RE4, every single local we meet is infected. There we go. I can find something to complain about with both.
The victim is then infected and lunges for Sheva and Chris, our first enemy of the game. There's something so brutal about this sequence and the way the cutscene is directed. The close-up, shaky shots of the man's face resisting the coming
infected, or moments
infection,
away from death. There
his
you go.
eyes and their bleeding, this new level of fidelity that it's presented in. Every time I saw this scene, my stomach just
Anyone that
dropped
wasn't
a
in the
little.
intro cutscene, I
It's
imagine.
also very similar to the first enemy we face in Resident Evil 4, except that we see the transformation in this man, something that will be important later in the game.
I always
Once this
forgot about
cutscene ends, the shackles have been unleashed. The townsfolk are revealed to be infected, and it's now finally
He's infected.
time to survive. We're attacked in a nearby alleyway by a horde of enemies, and we have to make a run for it. Chris and Sheva barricade themselves in a nearby building to get away from this mass of enemies. Chris contacts
Boo! He didn't go for the gem. What the hell, man?
Kirk to
That's
update him on the
crazy.
situation, but the mission hasn't changed. We still have to find Irving. The mission still stands.
A small
Heading
holdout of
through
people that
an
would have been like a
underground
ray of
tunnel,
hope.
we
Yeah,
can
I think
arrive in
so.
the town square.
It would have been cool.
Here there is a demonstration going
Review
on.
ruin, that's all I'm
A man
saying.
is yelling
He didn't get
Swahili
his-
into a
he
microphone.
didn't get the
and
gems.
two others have someone held down. The man being held is the contact that we talked to earlier. Before we can do anything, he is quickly executed by a massive creature standing to the side with an axe. We are then left to fend for ourselves as the group and the large axe-wielding monster is set upon us.
Also, really
What
weird.
follows
Sheva
is
tries
probably one
to
of my favorite segments in the game.
stop them,
It's a
and then Chris stops
subversion of
her.
the previous game's house defense.
They could have saved
sequence,
him.
as we're quickly given
They
the same
could have saved
scenario.
him. You know what I
Enemies
mean?
are flooding towards us, and we can block the doors.
I'm just saying,
and
they could have
windows
saved him.
with bookcases. They soon destroy these defenses, but
They-
they eventually start pouring in through the
They
ceiling.
could have saved him.
And even the wall itself is destroyed by the executioner. The fight then spills out into the town square as we have to run around and frantically try to defend ourselves before Kirk can arrive and get us out of
they're
here.
in trouble.
It's such an intense moment that slowly builds and progresses as it goes.
I will say this is a great opener like area because the executioner busting down the wall when you're like, okay, backs to the walls, and then he busts open the wall and it's like, ugh, run.
I will say that it probably goes on a bit too long
I'll
for
agree with
its
that.
own good, but it is great nonetheless.
A big reason it goes on so long is they want you to explore the area so you don't miss any of the stuff because there is there's the machine gun. You can kill the executioner himself.
The execution
Ouroboros is a virus. Oh, virusite, like Las Plagas. Las Plagas is only a parasite. Ouroboros, I think, is a virusite because it uses Las Plagas to as like the host, and then a virus corrupts it more.
is also
Yeah.
worthy of note here because he's extremely hard to kill, especially with our early game weapons.
Nah,
He's
super
an example
easy.
of great enemy design in this game, though I do think he's veering a bit too close to Silent Hill territory because he drags his axe in a pretty similar way to Pyramid Head. After we
I think that might be reaching, but I understand where you're coming
survive
from.
this sequence, Kirk blasts the door that's blocking our exit. This ends Chapter 1-1 and begins Chapter 1-2. Chris and Sheva are once again tasked with heading to the coordinates.
Looks very
that
slow
the
for an
deal
enemy.
is
He
taking
is pretty
place
slow.
at. On the way, we head through some cramped side streets. Sheva eventually has to split off from Chris to grab a key upstairs.
The one tap.
There are brief moments like this throughout the whole game. Times where Sheva will have to handle something and Chris will be tasked with covering her with fire from afar. It's a pretty neat mechanic that makes both
I liked
characters
it.
feel distinct, like they have areas of expertise. Chris is obviously
Chris is the strong one, so he throws Sheva.
strong enough to toss Sheva up to the roof, and Sheva is nimble enough to do so. It furthers the theme of partnership.
The way that the bottle just slow-mo hit him, dude. Look at that. Look at that. Bro lobbed that shit. Look at him. Huh. Look out. It's coming. It's coming. Any day now. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, it did hit him in the face. Okay, that's an appropriate response.
There's the theme of partnership and working together that the game has as well. It makes Chris and Sheva stronger as two colleagues, which is important for the end of the game to work.
Yeah.
As we enter the next area, a woman screams out for help. She's dragged inside by one of the infected.
I
and by the
forgot
time
this
we
was
get
chapter
to her,
2 or 1
she's already
2.
been infected. This means we officially see the physical transformation of the new Plagas that Resident Evil 5 has, the Type 2 Las Plagas.
Type 2
Now, while
Plagas.
Resident Evil 5's story is interesting, a lot of it is tied up in these optional files that we receive upon completing chapters of the game.
Yeah.
We also can, of course, pick up memos throughout the game that will add context to the overall story.
The enemies look bug-like. Is that important to the lore? Plagas looked like that. That's kind of all I can say. Plagas kind of looked like that in RE4. And yeah.
To say that
That's
I
it.
think some of these memos are the most interesting in the series so far and actually have really unique themes that I didn't expect from this game.
Yeah.
But the long files in the menus is where we really start to get a ton of background information on the story.
Way too much.
Some of these are basically short stories with character dialogue and everything. We'll get back to those in a moment, but
Very
one of the
parasitic,
memos
yeah.
we find later will tell us a lot about the Type 2 Plagas. The Type 2 Plagas was being tested in this area, and the big thing that sets it apart from its predecessor is that the parasite could be matured outside of a host. This means that you could administer the mature parasite to its new
Like
host,
that.
and that host would be infected immediately.
Yeah, so they don't have to wait for the Plagas to hatch. They can just give it to people, which is why it's way easier to spread the infection.
Rather than
By the timeline stuff on the loading screen. Yeah, it like tried to show off that kind of thing.
having to wait for the parasite to mature, like the Las Plagas we encountered in Spain did. This
Yeah,
is
'cause it
why
took
we
the
see
entire
them
freaking
being
game.
force-fed a parasite and then instantly transforming. Kijuju is currently being used as a test site for the Type 2 Plagas, the next iteration of these deadly viruses. Whoever was behind this virus wanted an infected crowd that they could control very quickly, and they got it.
Yeah, they did.
After defeating this enemy,
Wesker wanted to create the perfect virus. We took samples from the progenitor virus, Las Plagas, and maybe some samples from the Veronica virus, probably, considering that he took Steve's body at the end of Code Veronica. Yeah, and I would probably say G virus too, because Ada survives Resident Evil 2 and ends up working with him in Resident Evil 4. So I'd say T virus, progenitor virus, Plagas, G virus. Well, progenitor T, G, Plagas, Veronica. And that is probably what he used to make Ouroboros. Is my assumption. Yeah, he confirmed to get G. Yeah, I thought so. Any virus, all the virus. Yeah, it's the alphabet of viruses. You know, it's like Legitibiqua.
And Sheva can head to the nearby meeting point where we find Alpha Team absolutely eviscerated.
Why
We can
is
find
Chris
one
not part of
member
Alpha
still
Team?
hanging on to life, though. He tells Chris that Irving, the black market dealer, will
See, this is what I mean. This many veins, when he's not flexing, that's not natural. That's crazy.
looking for set this whole
Ouroboros
thing
is the
up.
virus
He got
virus? I'll show
away,
you a
and
virus
Alpha Team
virus.
fell right into a trap. He downloaded some data, though, that might help and passes it off to Chris in the hopes that he'll deliver it to HQ.
You got that Baki fit?
Sheva
Dude, look how big the veins are. He is grossly dehydrated. Get this man some water.
saw someone lurking nearby, but they escaped as well. Our new goal is to find
This
a
man's some
nearby
Gatorade.
vehicle that we can
Not
use
sponsored.
to send the data to HQ.
Give him some
We
electrolytes.
can take an
There we go.
elevator in this abandoned building, which leads downstairs. Here we find a furnace room with a key to get moving forward. As we're heading out, though, we encounter a strange new leech monster.
Nah,
A
you can kill
writhing
him.
beast with small tentacles and paws.
Shia and I
all
did it.
over
You can do it.
It is incredibly strong, and we definitely can't defeat it on our own at this point in the game.
What? Maybe if you weren't a bit. No, I'm just kidding.
This is
It's a very hard
technically our
fight.
first boss fight of the game.
It's a hard
but it's
fight.
a pretty simple one. The main thing we do is head back into the furnace room and lure the monster into the furnace. We can then close the doors and blast the thing with fire to destroy it. It's just a really simple encounter that didn't bring me much tension. Part of this is in the poor design. We have to head back to the double door furnace to get the key before we even meet the boss. And as soon as you lay eyes on the furnace, you know what you're in for.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They kind of spoil the idea of like what it is that they want you to do for the boss fight before you even see the boss.
You know what you're going to have to do
Like favorite
and how to
what?
do it. There's no fear or quick thinking.
Lure your
here.
co-op partner
game
into the
is
furnace
designed
first.
to
Yeah,
put the
absolutely.
solution in front of you beforehand, just in case you wouldn't understand and possibly die to this boss. God forbid you die to a boss.
That'd be terrible.
To be fair, though, to the game, it's a pretty short encounter, and there are a lot better bosses later in this entry.
There's also worse bosses, like the boss in the lab that you have used the flamethrower for that Shia and I skipped because I had the rocket launcher, and that boss sucks.
After we defeat it, Chris and Sheva head upstairs
it's good for
only to see
players on
someone
difficulty.
watching
Yes.
them on nearby CCTV
Yes, it is.
cameras. It's Irving and the masked person that we saw from the intro to the game. They head out and Chris uploads the data to HQ.
Much worse.
HQ thanks him
Absolutely.
for the data, but tells the two that their mission still stands. They must capture Irving, who seems to have fled to the mines on the other side of town. Chris and Sheva are understandably apprehensive about taking this on by themselves. Delta team is supposed to arrive as backup.
Would have been
but
hilarious
going
if
in
it wasn't
alone
on
is
easier
basically
difficulties. Yeah, it would have been
asking to
funny.
lose.
Proceed to the mines beyond the station. Over and out.
This is insane.
You ever get the feeling you're expendable?
I still hate that line because it's like, out of every Resident Evil character, why the fuck is Chris expendable? Co-founder of the BSAA is considered expendable? No, absolutely not.
This ends chapter 1-2 and begins chapter 2-1 of the game.
Line is odd, I
Heading out of
agree.
This building, we'll have to weave through some more Kijuju to get to the mines.
I'm
We're
almost
stuck
out of
in
water.
narrow hallways littered with traps and
I'm almost out of
infected
water.
dogs, which the game refers to as Ajule. These are pretty
Ajule.
similar to the infected dogs from previous
Ajule.
games, except these split their heads open and
Very
grow
creepy.
stronger when mutating.
Very creepy.
They can overwhelm us pretty quick, and a pack of them is a dangerous situation.
And they are very
Chris and
creepy.
Sheva eventually cross a bridge where a truck tries to run them over, navigate some underground tunnels, and eventually get swarmed at the docks. During this,
I actually really like the docks area. I almost wish it was bigger because I feel like aside from like the swamps and when you're on that boat going down the canals, there's not really like a lot of water. It's all just like you're on the boat fight for Irving, or I guess there is the part where you're literally on the tankard. Never mind.
we will encounter
My
another
bad.
new enemy, one that's a bit more unique than infected dogs. The Kipapeo are a mutated
Kipapeo.
insect that bursts
Hey,
from the head
Kipapeo.
of a recently dead Majini.
No, that's crazy.
In some sick way, they resemble infected butterflies. Large
Ew.
wings, small body. They fly around and throw projectiles at us. There's
They have projectiles? Wait, I didn't know that.
something reminiscent of the insects in Resident Evil 4, but they don't land as often as those did. Heading through the docks is an intense escape mission.
You know
A fight
Simlish?
for our lives
Un
to
poquito.
barely scrape by and
Spanish.
survive. We are overwhelmed by another horde and must last long enough for Kirk to blast the barricades in front of us. A chopper flying overhead.
Man, Kirk is doing his
infected
best, all
rushing
right?
around us from every direction.
Kirk is doing
It's
his
a pretty
best.
tense scene and stands as a pretty great representation of what Resident Evil 5 is going for with its tone.
Overwhelming.
Large set pieces that carve out a goal for themselves.
Yep.
This goal, rather than focusing on fear and atmosphere, sets its sights on intensity and speed.
Damn, Sheva.
We carve through some nearby buildings and eventually Kirk
What the
is
fuck are
taken out of
those?
the air by a swarm
Matheson
of
to HQ.
Kipapeos.
I'm under attack by
Add
flying
Kirk to the list of
POWs.
pilots dead in the Resident Evil series. R.I.P. Kirk.
I was going to say, once again, pilot's dead. Was there ever a real nighttime moment in RE5? Yeah, when you're on the oil tank, not oil tanker, the ship towards the end of the game, chapter 5. When you're chasing after Excella, I think all of that is at night. I'm pretty sure it is. It's just that you're on a big, well-lit ship that it doesn't seem that way.
We're forced to go at it alone and manage by ourselves. In the next area,
Capcom doesn't like pilots.
Shia to another building to unlock a door for us.
True and real.
While this happens, our job is to watch over her and ensure she isn't swarmed. Resident Evil 5 puts a larger emphasis on environmental combat than any other game in the series.
Yes.
This was something that the developers
saving a helicopter
set out to do from the very beginning.
I also just realized there's no weapon attachments. There's no like stock for the VZ. There's no like stock for a Red 9. Man.
Exploding barrels, electric boxes, oil drums. Around every corner is something for us to shoot, something to blow up, chaos to be made.
Chaos.
All of these items are opportunities, moments of potential that exist in theory as soon as you see them. The amount of satisfaction achieved from the future combat encounter is up to how well you can time your usage of these things.
I
But I
agree.
have to say that the environmental items in this game are incredibly satisfying to use.
Big agree. I think you guys talked about it before too, where you were like, whoa, I didn't even know that item was there. And here Shia and Roy are shooting down these electrical boxes and stunning enemies with them. Wow.
Just as satisfying as when they were introduced back in Resident Evil 3. Shooting an exploding barrel and grabbing a few
really cool.
kills feels
King Yoko.
great.
Thanks
Just
for the follow.
as you think
Welcome in.
you're overwhelmed and become conscious of how little ammo you have, you realize that you have an ace up your sleeve. A way to kill 3 or 4 or even 5 enemies with 1 bullet instead.
It's awesome.
As Chris and Sheva head out of this area, they are attacked by a new enemy type, which isn't really a new enemy type at all. The Chainsaw Majini is basically the same thing as the Chainsaw Man from Resident Evil 4. If there's really one complaint that I have with this game, it's just that it retreads so much ground from the previous entry.
So that's the funny thing is like, that's where like I do agree that it does retread a lot of things that RE4 did. I feel like it didn't take enough. It took like the not good things or like the things that they didn't need to take, you know, the things that could have been left for identity of Resident Evil 5. I don't know. I'm just complaining. I'm nitpicking.
Things from that game that just felt like they were meant for that world, like they existed in Spain only and shouldn't really be making big appearances outside of that.
I agree.
And you could make the case that the original Resident Evil trilogy reused a lot of enemies. But Resident Evil 5 was on a new generation of consoles. In such a distinct area and setting, it feels like the enemies should be.
I love how it just
revamped
falls
as well.
over.
Of course, this isn't the only enemy that gets reused from Resident Evil 4, but it just makes those monsters feel less unique when they're stripped out of that setting. After this little mini boss
I think it's
fight,
fair.
we escape the area and our 2 main characters end up in an open field where they are attacked by Majini on motorcycles.
Is this the first
infected
like actual quick time scene where you can die?
men doing sick jumps on
it's
bikes,
that dog.
wielding chains. It's very awesome. This is the point in
so.
the game where things start to ramp up and get a little crazier. Though I wouldn't really classify Resident Evil 5 as going off the rails until the second half of the game.
Okay.
Sheva and Chris are eventually rescued by Josh
There's
Stone
Josh.
of the BSAA. Josh was Sheva's original mentor in the organization and was responsible for bringing her up in the group. Josh tells Chris and Sheva once again that they need to keep looking for Irving and that he still might be in
why does Josh just look so much better than both Sheva and Chris?
the mines. But when Chris sees
Like Sheva has no detail at all to her face. Meanwhile,
the
Josh.
information stored on the chip, he sees a ghost from his past.
I'm just saying.
Jill Valentine seems to be alive, possibly in the area. Chris tries to brush this under the rug to his new partner, but it's pretty clear that this is something that he won't let go of so easily.
No!
Chris, are you all right?
Sorry, I just had a flashback.
This picture, it's... forget it. It's nothing.
What? I forgot that he didn't just tell her right away. Why would he not tell her? Jill is also a founding member of the BSAA. You would want people to know.
Let's move out.
I feel like then it immediately, it stops being, oh man, we have to stop this black market arms dealer, and turns into we have to go rescue one of our own. It changes the stakes. Tell HQ.
This ends chapter 2.1 and moves us into chapter 2.2.
What the hell?
The first thing we'll do is head outside. It's
complicated, man.
No, it's not. Area.
Shut up.
A section that has actually terrible level design.
Yeah.
It's a short little area, but this place is designed to naturally funnel you into a dead end for no reason. You eventually figure out that you need to climb on top of the trains, but the level isn't designed to guide the player that way.
Yeah.
It's nonsensical. This section does take us directly into the mines, though, with another asinine section directly after.
Oh.
Chris and Sheva are trapped in a dark mine shaft, and one character has to hold the light while the other is in charge of shooting the zombies that inevitably attack.
You don't
It's moments
have
like these
to.
where Resident Evil 5's systems start to break down. When the minutiae
You don't have to pick up the lantern, but it helps.
of commanding your partner,
The yellow
to
typing
put
games
down the
nowadays, there
light
you
just
go.
to swap items.
They want
with
Sheva
them
stealing
and
Jill
then
from
have
him.
them put it up again
So
really starts to
true.
grate on you. It seems like these systems are fine for general combat, but once you start to introduce other mechanics and secondary objectives, it just feels like you're fighting against it. The next section
Around two
is
players and only two
thankfully
players.
a bit better, though, as we get to fight a group of
Hungry.
enemies in this huge mine shaft. There's 3 tiers to this thing, and the intensity of being focused on by a huge group.
This
while
area
we're at
did
the
suck.
bottom
I
of
will
a
not-
great
I will not
cavern
lie.
really sets in.
Probably
The
about rescuing
verticality
Jill. It would
is
be
done
like,
really well.
would have saved them a lot of trouble.
Eventually,
Really?
Chris and Sheva get an elevator out of the mines into a large facility. Here we find Irving trying to escape.
Yeah, I forgot the
wielding
mines
a
aren't even that
gun.
long.
Irving sounds like he's doing some sort of weird half Smeagol impression, half gangster mob movie accent.
Wow, perceptive, aren't ya?
You think this is a joke? You're just like all the other pieces of scum terrorists.
Oh, I'm not like them. I'm a businessman with standards.
I'm a businessman with standards.
So goofy, and it plays further into the whole B action movie quality that
Yeah.
this game has to it.
Well, it went downhill after he
Unfortunately, before we can
died.
find anything
Best
out or
character?
capture Irving, he is rescued by the masked stranger. that
I
we
do
see
agree that it
appear
goes a little bit more
again and
downhill
again.
after he
Luckily,
dies.
He left behind some
But I
notes, and
don't-
it seems like he's heading to the nearby oil field.
I don't
in
know if I'd
marshlands.
say he's the best character.
In this building, we are completely outflanked. We have to escape, contending with a massive turret on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
We then are tasked
making me
with
look
pushing through a wall of
bad.
enemies stationed on this cliffside. Eventually, destroying them gets us to a small encampment.
see
where
that? That's
Irving has left
crazy.
another BOW and an attempt to stop us. This is our second true boss battle of the game against the Popo Karimu. This is a
Popo
BOW that was
Karimu.
clearly mutated using bat DNA. But in that mutation, this grotesque creature has gained a huge pod on its underside. The thing will fly and chase us around the environment. It'll even destroy these small buildings around us if its attacks manage to
Wow, I
come
wonder
into
how they
contact with
did
them.
that.
They are leveled, and the resources that they held are left scattered to the ground. Its weak spot seems to be on its stomach, so we need to use explosives to stun the thing so we can run up behind it and deliver crippling damage.
I kind
The
of
monster threatens
kind of
to take
assumed
out
that it
our
was
pair, but
more
Chris,
more
of
of just
course,
an
takes it out
underside,
in
not
the most
stomach.
badass way possible.
But all right. One shot, 2 shot, 3 shot. And that's it.
A member of the
And that's it.
BSAA shows up to rescue us once again, and we hop in the back
Biology
of a
is
Humvee
complex
with two
with
mounted
BOWs,
guns
true.
strapped to it. This ends chapter 2.
No, for a shot, 3 out of 10. That's
begins
what I'm
chapter
saying.
2-3,
That's what I'm
which
saying.
is an on-rails shooter
Oh my
chapter.
god, it's one of my least
This
favorite
is literally
chapters.
the only part of the game that's like this, discounting a half on rails, half not boat section later. I'm not really sure why they just threw it in here. The first section is pretty fun, though. I can't say that the on-rails shooting is bad. It's pretty great. and
it's just what it
Resident
is.
Evil was no stranger to this genre at this point. We basically defend the Humvee while Majini chase us on motorcycles and trucks. The vehicle eventually hits a roadblock and
hey, look,
forced
it's night.
to jump a destroyed bridge.
Which,
on the other side,
there's
though,
no way.
just as the
It does not make
BSAA
that.
operatives head out of the vehicle, a massive monster comes after them.
No!
Chris and Sheva are isolated, and Anandesu attacks. This is our next boss battle against what is basically a reuse of the El Gigante from the last game.
That's what I'm saying!
This is, in my opinion, a much worse example of Resident Evil 5 retreading old ground.
Once again.
We're fighting the same boss, but we're also fighting that boss in a really bad, terribly long on-rails shooting section.
It is so long. If you guys have ever played Resident Evil 5, especially on professional, this is where I was saying, like, this sucks. This fight on professional is so goddamn long, because if you miss like a single dude on the side, you're immediately down like a quarter of your health. It is insane.
Everything about this fight is inferior to the El Gigante fight in Resident Evil 4. We shoot turrets that overheat if we use them too much, but it only takes a second or two to cool down, so it isn't really a hurdle we have to overcome. We can basically keep shooting the entire time and just have to target these pods on the Indesu's body so that it will release the parasite on its back.
It's fine.
This deals real damage, but we have to do this 3 or 4 times before the boss actually dies.
It
just takes
terrible.
so long, and the boss ends up recycling attacks over and over again.
Yep.
It also just feels so out of place in the rest of the game.
I
was
agree.
shocked that this section was here because it really feels like this weird little detour when you compare it to everything else. They could have easily just went in one of the Wii shooter games as an addition to the Wii shooter story, but here it is, smacked randomly in the middle of the game. It's also just a much more poorly designed version of the El Gigante.
I mean, yeah, of course. I believe a friend of mine broke their controller because of this mission. Not even surprised.
Seems to be to make the El Gigante look more human by giving him a beard. Cool. This grotesque monster now just looks like an old guy. After we defeat the boss, Sheva hopes that Josh survived the attack. Chris tells her that she doesn't have to stick around, that he can go it alone now.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
He finally reveals that the original reason he took this mission was because he received intel that Jill might be alive.
Who got him that intel? Do we ever find that out? Watch it have been like Wesker leaked it to Chris intentionally to like lure Chris here. That's probably what happened. It was probably Wesker to lure Chris here to show him that he corrupted Jill and then have Jill kill him.
He has to keep
I wrote the
going
script
because things have
I wrote the script.
Personal for him. Sheva questions whether it's even the same person, but Chris stomps off, declaring,
I'm doing all right. What's up, Remnant?
Partners. I'm sure.
Wait!
Damn!
You're not going alone.
Sheva, of course, relents and decides to support Chris because that's what
if I'm actually an NTR
do.
story.
This is the first hint of the overarching theme that this game carries.
Partners.
What it means to be a partner.
Partners.
And trusting that partner. It's not that Chris doesn't trust Sheva. He just doesn't view her like that yet. He tells her that he doesn't really need her to finish this mission, that he can go on by himself. He still thinks of Jill as his partner and Sheva as this woman that he just met.
This woman.
This dynamic and relationship will change over the course of the game. And while Resident Evil 5's story can be slow to start, its themes and finale are some of my favorite parts of the series so far. There are certain aspects of this game that do manage to exceed anything else in the series
reverse flash.
when it comes to my personal tastes. And the only reason it doesn't really stand
Chris
up
and
to the
Sheva
rest
a
of
chip
the
with the
series
data
overall
and
is
Jill's
because the
photo
greater
inside. Oh, well, there was that. I meant more so Chris got the scoop before that, and that's why he's in Africa.
Package is dragged down by little mistakes that pile up.
Sheva catches up with Chris, telling him that this issue is personal for her too. She's from here. These are her people as well. But Chris makes it pretty clear that they're moving solo from here on out.
There are no more orders from here on in. It's just us.
We're partners. to the end.
Something I don't understand is why are they moving solo? They still haven't caught Irving. Why wouldn't they still work with the BSAA? What do you mean we're solo?
Now let's get moving.
This marks the end of Chapter 2-3 and the beginning of Chapter 3 of the game. At the beginning of this
Because it's
chapter,
not like
we
he
arrive
leaves
in
the BSAA.
wetlands. Before the group investigates the area, though, Chris tells Sheva about his old partner, Jill. We get a flashback sequence that shows a recent event where Jill and Chris were trying to find Wesker. They track down Spencer, the founder of Umbrella, to his secluded mansion estate. When they arrived,
Secluded
they found
mansion
Wesker,
estate.
but Spencer was already killed. Chris and Jill got their asses absolutely handed to them
Bodied.
by an augmented being that is Albert
For
Wesker.
free.
though. Chris was about to be killed by Wesker before Jill tackled him into the window. Jill's body was never found, and Chris is hanging on to the hope that she's still alive.
I don't know if she's still alive.
You two were close.
Get choke slam.
This is important
Yeah, we
because
were
the way that
partners.
Chris answers this question
Hey,
means that
Murasaki Beans. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I absolutely love working out, in case you can tell. We are watching the Resident Evil 5 retrospective video. We're learning all the cool stuff behind the scenes, going over your favorite son's video about it, and then we're going to dive into some Minecraft in just a little bit. So pull up a chair, kick up your feet, let's have some fun.
partners to him means close. Sheva then reveals a bit of her backstory, that her parents were involved in an accident when she was young.
I hate this.
Both of her parents died, and of course, Umbrella was behind it.
It's like it's so cliche for Resident Evil. You know what I mean? Those plagas in your pecs? I guess I'm gonna need ballistics.
The accident was a cover-up for biological weapons being sold to terrorists. Africa has been being used as a test bed for these viruses for a while. This is why she decided to join the BSAA.
Parents died, blah, blah, blah. That's what I'm saying.
The two make a pact to take the people behind this
You know?
down once and for all. With this, we entered the
Crazy.
second large area of the game, the wetlands.
I love the
wetlands
wetlands.
is a sprawling sort of swamp. Here
It is
we
one of my
encounter
favorites.
The regressed tribes of this land, infected people living in these areas that have suddenly begun to act strange. Just
Suddenly
like the
begun to
Ganados in
act
Resident Evil 4 eventually
strange.
turned into ritual practicing cultists, the Majini in Resident Evil 5 have now turned into tribal infected, wielding spears and torches.
That headshot.
We will fight a variety of these enemies here. This variety is mostly made up of different weaponry, crossbows, spears, etc. The large Majini, though, are the fearsome mini-bosses of this area.
Oh, the grenade
Massive
missed!
beasts warped by the Plagas to grow in size and dexterity. They deal a ton of damage and require massive amounts of ammunition to be taken
Worth it.
down. Navigating the wetlands, though,
Give me a
is the
grenade.
interesting part.
Give me a
For the
grenade.
first time in the game, we're allowed to roam free across a wide
Grenade.
open area. The first two chapters of the game, and most of the rest of it outside
duck.
of this one specific area, will be very linear. This is
Give me an
sort
egg.
of implemented
Yeah,
like
he does
the
say an
Link
egg for
was
that
in
one,
Resident
too.
Evil 4, an area that allows us to breathe a little bit and pursue things in our way. The
Cannot
driving
handle his
force
arms, they just
behind
look so
this
big.
section,
They're bigger
though,
than
is finding
mine.
4
And that's saying
pieces of a
something. I mean,
door lock
I got
to
big arms.
proceed. One is found directly by the lock, and the other 3 are found spread out across the map in different encampments.
I wonder where they could
We
be.
can optionally stop at different islands, one holding various chickens and
Chicken!
their eggs, just like in the last game.
Chicken Island.
While I do appreciate the fact that the game allows us to free roam in this area, I don't think it really hits the spot for the most part. The big reason that exploration was so good in Resident Evil 4 was because it was satisfying. Extra ammo and equipment felt like meaningful boosts. For the most part, I kept the same guns that I had from this point in the game on in Resident Evil 5.
It's because you do,
I upgraded
genuinely.
to a new shotgun when the merchant allowed, but I never really felt like these upgrades mattered all that much.
It's because they don't. It's just
Also,
monetary.
because the treasure system is downgraded in Resident Evil 5.
Exploring
we don't have
doesn't
as
feel
much
as
of
worth
a
it.
reason to engage with these systems.
Yeah.
Of course, we do get treasures, but because we don't need to get every treasure, it's not as important.
It's
there just
crazy.
isn't any heft to exploration motion in Resident Evil 5, so you never really feel like you should go out of your way because you aren't always rewarded for doing so.
The only like real big rewards are like the ones where it's like get every treasure or buy all the bottle caps and the shoot all the BSAA emblems. That's where you get rewarded. But like, yeah, it's never a here's a new weapon, here's an upgrade for that weapon. It's here's a little bit of money, I guess. How many leeches were stuck on Chris and Shia after waiting for the water? None, because it's crocodile infested water.
These areas just feeling like new
Not
combat
leeches,
encounters rather than moments of opportunity. And that's fine. That certainly places the focus on combat more than it does the ancillary things off to the side. But it left me feeling like I didn't need to see every single part of this world to get the gist.
Yeah,
after we avoid some crocodiles and use our new whip to gallivant around the wetlands, we can unlock the door ahead.
Our new
This leads into a proper wetlands village where we
Did you say our new whip? Does that mean like the vehicle? Is that what that is?
Quickly set upon by a much larger group.
The ones are lesser compared to RE4.
This,
yeah,
for some reason, was the most buggy area of the game for me. Both
we
times
had
I
some
played
bugs
this
here
in co-op and solo.
Yeah, we had some
the
bugs
game
here.
Had issues spawning in the characters properly.
They
would often get
the
stuck
enemies.
in the walls, but they could still manage to shoot projectiles at me.
Shia and I had the same problem. That's so funny.
Eventually, gaining access to the bridge in this area, we can activate a gondola that closes this chapter and begins chapter 3-2 of the game.
Oh, time for the crocodile raft
area that has us activating a raft.
Yeah, crocodile raft.
Some odd tents that are labeled from a company called Tricell. We're pretty quickly thrust into the center of an oil field. Here we have to turn off the leaking pipes to get to the next area.
How did Irving get through?
We have to do this while being pestered by tons of Magini and a few chainsaw variants. After this section, Chris and Shia meet up with Josh Stone again.
For Tricell.
He thankfully survived the last encounter, but gets the regretful news that his team is dead. As soon as the pair explain that they're
it is always wild to me that they're like, look how like crazed they are. They look wild in the eyes. Like, look, he's staring right at them. He knows who they are. Homie.
That his team is dead. As soon as the pair explain that they're looking for Jill, they are locked in the room and attacked by a group of
that's
enemies.
insane.
We have to defend Josh while he gets the elevator working. Heading up the elevator, we have to make a quick escape attempt through the facility. This was a very intense moment in the game and a small but bright point for me. We're waiting for Josh to get the door open and just watching this powerful flood of enemies wash over
Just follow
us.
behind.
They get closer and closer, and we know we don't have the equipment.
So I'm getting like distracted playing.
It's such a
watching
great
them play.
piece, but this is Resident Evil 5's greatest strength. The moments where it leans even further into the action and intensity.
Ooh.
On the other side, Josh splits up.
I kind of like that as a point. It does feel like the action with enemies in these types of settings, in these types of settings, feel significantly stronger. They feel more fun when they're throwing these overwhelming odds of enemies at you. It's like in chapter 1-1 when you're in the building and the executioner busts it down, freaky style, you know. And you have to deal with all of that. You have to deal with all the enemies that are pouring in. And it feels very much like that in this sense. It's the other parts where it gets kind of annoying when they have guns. And it's less fun, you know? Take care, Spartan. Have a good one.
From us and heads out to find an escape. Chris and Shia have to find Irving, still, who plans to blow up the oil refinery, hoping to escape under the cover of the flames. We pretty quickly find Irving on a massive yacht. He and his masked lackey escape. We're overrun once again by zombies and have to head to the other side of the dock with only 2 minutes to do so.
I think they could have just swam around. I'm just saying.
The factory explodes and we barely escape as the group watches the facility go down in flames. This marks the end of Chapter 3-2 and the beginning of Chapter 3-3.
Gotta love it.
We get another on-rails shooting sequence where we have to defend the boat against a barrage of enemies.
Yeah, but it's for like
this
5
section is
seconds,
a little different, though.
You know?
It's broken up by short parts where we have to get off the boat and lift up a door blocking our way. The game just
really
absolutely floods you with enemies at this point.
I did not
Most
like
of
this
which
part.
you're probably supposed to just run past and get the switch.
It's a hectic situation, especially because the pathways that we walk on are so narrow.
Yeah.
There's barely any room to run, so we just have to blast our way through. Once we finally get through this section,
kind of annoying.
we cap off Chapter 3 with a massive boss battle.
Finally,
Catching
a
up to
boss
Irving's
fight.
ship, we're shot at by the black market dealer.
Thinking about potential remake, just imagine how glorious Irving's accent will be. Oh my god, it would be so good. Crab, thanks for the raid. Welcome in, guys. I'm Roy. We're doing a Resident Evil 5 retrospective video watch along now. It's movie time. So we're going to be watching this, and once we finish this, we'll dive into some Minecraft. We're playing in the vCraft Enchanted RP server. So we'll be having a fun time there. So pull up a chair, let's have some fun.
Before Chris and Jill hop aboard the
Movie
ship,
time!
Irving has a flashback. He was being pressured by the masked stranger to use some sort of virus sample and to take out Jill and Chris. Irving injects himself with the virus, but not before telling our main characters that he's the one that got this entire operation off the ground. All the research here is being funded by the money he earns from his black market operations. The injection, of course, mutates Irving.
And this
If
is
there's one thing that
Ouroboros.
this game has in spades, it's incredibly grotesque mutations.
I'm pretty certain.
Irving
Yeah.
has tentacles piercing through his back, and he jumps in the water before becoming
He's so
what is
lipped.
essentially a large kraken type.
Oh, he said
creature.
Jill and Chris?
This
Wait, did he say Jill and Chris?
Irving has the injection, of course, mutates this entire operation off the ground. All the research here is being funded by the money he earns from his black market operations. The injection, of course, mutates with the virus sample and to take out Jill and Chris.
Wow, that's crazy. Wait, that is actually wild.
It's incredibly grotesque mutation sequences. Irving has tentacles.
I mean, it's
piercing
just a
through his
mistake.
back.
But like, it just goes to show you, like, even Shava.
And he jumps in the water before becoming what is essentially a large kraken-type creature. This enemy is massive, and the only way that we can take it out is by using the mounted guns on the side of the ship.
I mean,
We have to shoot
you could
various
use
pods
rocket
and
launchers,
arms that pop out
you
of the water
know.
to prevent ourselves from being hurt. Doing damage to the infected Irving is actually as simple as blasting his body full of bullets when it rises from the water. This can only be done
from
when
your
the
grave.
mouth opens and reveals it, though. We do this enough, and Irving's mutated body is amputated, falling aboard the ship. Chris tries to ask the man some questions before he dies, specifically about the Ouroboros
Where's the plan?
project. He
What's
doesn't
going
exactly
on?
give us any information, though, only vague warnings about the project, that it was to reshape the balance of the world, and that it's far too late to stop it. And with that, Gangster Smeagol is dead.
Gangster
This ends-
Smeagol. Wait, there's no way. Oh my gosh.
This ends Chapter 3.3 and begins
Oh my
Chapter 4
gosh.
of the game. Before Irving died, he said that our answers lie in that cave over
That
there.
cave over there.
Wait ahead, Chris. In that cave.
You know,
Over there.
that cave over there on a moving ship.
Yeah.
So we head to the
That
cave and we
cave.
find the boat that the masked
Over
stranger
there.
used to escape earlier. Josh Stone is heading back
never drop
to
a
talk to
mixtape now. Yeah,
HQ to
absolutely.
get more support for this mission. This next area of the game is very similar to the caves that we encounter in Resident
The phrase
Evil
the sun comes
4.
up with, they're pretty funny,
we
right?
Fight a new insect-like enemy here, the Bui Quichua. These
Bui
are
Quichua.
sort of the swarm enemy of Resident Evil 5. They're weak and don't take many shots, but if we have to take too many of them on at once, we can easily get overwhelmed.
Flash grenade.
But the caves aren't a very large area because these caves quickly give way to the ruins.
Yeah, it's like you find them there, and then in the area directly after this, and the laser puzzle, and that's it.
Massive network of dilapidated
Right?
structures.
Best
Ancient
level.
buildings
Hate
relegated
this
to
level.
underground cavern.
Which is so funny because
The
Shia and I
wetlands
kept
of
saying
Ingenia
that for
appear
like
again down here, protecting these
entire
ruins
time.
from anyone that would
Every
try to
single
invade
time.
them. We get separated here pretty quickly from Sheva. We have to defend ourselves from the onslaught while reuniting with our partner. Getting out of these ruins entails solving a massive puzzle. There are various statues around
just
this
barely
room
missed
that
it.
we have to use to raise stairs about the place. Each staircase
salty about the
changes
laser puzzle?
path through
yeah, because it sucks. It's garbage. and I hate it.
Through the area, and half of the environment is already destroyed, meaning that things start to deteriorate as we gain entry into new parts of this room. And once we finally get the stairs aligned correctly, we get attacked by another Popokarimu. We don't actually have to defeat this one, though. We can just run out of the area, and the beast is trapped under a door.
Wait, I thought it was the same one. Isn't it the same one? What's up, Starborn? Welcome in.
Leaving this place, we'll see two new characters talking. Excella Gion, someone we'll learn more about later, is injecting a yet-to-be-revealed character with a serum. This is very obviously Albert Wesker. Excella is working with the company Tricell, but she's also working with Wesker to further his plans with this Ouroboros project we've been hearing so much about. Excella is basically trying to sleep with Wesker to get a better place in this plan.
Yeah, quite literally.
Before we can learn more about these two, though, the masked stranger informs Wesker that the BSAA agents have arrived. Wesker sends his two agents off to deal with them, as his plan is almost ready. We then see a flashback from Wesker here to the night that he killed Spencer.
The right to become a god. So dumb. She could tell Wesker she only has eyes for one person, one steroid-addicted man. That's crazy.
This ends chapter 4:1 and begins chapter 4:2. We head into the worship area, another large temple with varying paths.
Yeah.
But this time, the Majini are using some sort of device to focus sunlight and direct it at the walkways in the area.
Yeah.
We have to time our rushes correctly to be able to navigate around these beams. The general goal in this area is just to grab various plates hidden around the ruins.
I hated this
area of the game. Once we do this and head out, we have what I would call the first actual puzzle of the game.
The first actual
we had areas
puzzle
where we needed to grab tablets to put in a door. We had places where we had to lift stairs and such, but those weren't traditional puzzles.
I mean, correct.
Here we have to direct beams of sunlight into the correct dais so that we can move down to the next level. Even though this is the first true puzzle of the game, I wouldn't exactly call it that complex. This is honestly one of the things that Resident Evil 5 lacks quite a bit in, is actual puzzles to take up its runtime. It often feels like for stretches of the game that we'll just be running rooms, defeating enemies, and heading out the other side.
That's kind of just how Resident Evil 5 is structured, though. A lot of the time, the game is built like that because I think genuinely, for the most part, they do want the game to be focused on action. It's why Chapter 4 as a whole is pretty odd. You know, you get into the caves. It is exploring a little bit of the caves, but then there's the side paths. There's you and Sheva get cut off from each other. There's the ballroom. There's the lasers. There's the giant lasers and the narrow halls, and having to get the slates for the door. Chapter 4 is a huge slowdown, and that's why I was saying, like, there's like really weird pacing problems after the halfway point, which we are starting to feel here.
A large portion of this feeling comes from the fact that in the beginning of the game, there isn't a lot of narrative hooks to keep us busy either.
Yeah.
You'll notice that many scenes in the beginning of the game result in essentially the same information. Get Ricardo Irving. We need to stop him. Still need to get Ricardo Irving.
Yeah, still need to get
Irving.
Irving.
What's up? Yeah, you still got to get Ricardo Irving.
Yeah.
The story of the game doesn't really feel like it starts until past the halfway mark of the game. Combine that with the fact that we don't really get many puzzles in this entry, and you're left with a series of rooms set up one after the other with combat encounters inside.
That's probably why the what's it called feels so weird when you change, kind of pivot into different story positions. How many chapters are in this game? It's like 5-5? Or is it 6-3? I don't remember if there are actually 6 chapters. I can't remember. It's either like a late 5 or early 6.
Not exactly as intriguing or gripping as the previous games.
I can't remember.
After this little
I just played
puzzle,
it and I
we
can't
finally
remember.
Get to the bottom of the ruins.
I think it's late 5.
Chris and Sheva happen upon a field of red flowers.
First, like,
Sheva asks the obvious question:
to get to
how
the meat
can
of the
they
story.
survive under here?
Yeah.
Something is strange about these plants,
I feel that.
but Chris quickly notices an umbrella crate sitting off to the side. Some of the equipment is from our old friends, but some of it is also labeled Tricell. This ends chapter 4.2 and starts 5.1. As we begin this chapter, we can read a ton of different notes here that start to really flesh out the story that's going on in this game. It's unfortunate that a lot of the really interesting stuff here is all happening in the background.
I forgot this is all revealed here. This is where they talk about, this is where we found the progenitor virus. We kicked out the natives that lived here to steal the flower so we could research the virus that was attached to this flower. Literally, that's it.
Half in the game, but half in memos and files only accessible from the main menu. In the interest of brevity, I'll just explain the background that we get here.
It's pretty nuts.
This facility was originally used because during the formation of Umbrella, Spencer wanted to find a virus that could alter DNA. They found this virus, which was
it's such one of the Nightmare DLC files, the Wesker Project. Yeah, so the idea is that Albert Wesker is one of only 2 Wesker children still alive. Although I think in 5, he's air quotes the only one, or they imply that he's the only successor, because Spencer does say like, you were the only successful one, but that's because they're not thinking about, is it Alexandra? Is that her name? It begins with an A. I just can't remember her name. Is it it's Alex, right? Alex Wesker, right? Yeah, Alex, thank you. There's another one, but we don't learn about her until Resident Evil Revelations 2. But the Weskers are basically just people that were trained and bred to be super soldiers for Umbrella in genetics projects, and people that they could infect with viruses to make them smarter, stronger, faster, better, everything like that. And Albert Wesker seemed to be the only one, really. Yeah, the Saw bitch. Yeah, the Saw bitch in Rev 2. But then, yeah, Alex Wesker survives and wins. Her plan actually goes through. But we're not going to talk about that until later.
Later referred to as the progenitor in these ruins. It came in the form of a flower called the Stairway to the Sun. The people in the area knew about the flower, particularly the tribes local to the region. These people would consume this flower, and though only a few of them survived the process, the ones that did would become strong warriors. When Umbrella started building here and taking over their land, they tried to fight back and became a thorn in the side of the company for a while. 2 researchers were instrumental in this early development of the virus, Brandon Bailey and James Marcus.
There he is.
We find out a lot of this information through Bailey's journals, but Marcus would eventually become head of the training facility that we see in Resident Evil 0.
Leech guy.
This whole process started in the 60s, and once they finally pushed the tribes
what did
out
Thorn
of the
do?
ruins, they gained free
what did
access
Thorn do?
to the flower.
Why are you saying, hey, Thorn? What did Thorn do? What did Thorn do? Huh? What did Thorn do? I'm watching you, Thorn. I'm watching you.
And its virus. Bailey was then stationed here for a long time, sending samples of the virus back to Marcus and the rest of the researchers working on a final sample.
And they found out that they couldn't keep it
this
alive.
Eventually resulted in the T-virus and all of the events of the original trilogy.
Thorn did a Thorn.
This
sounds
is
like
the
Thorn.
True origin of the
Sounds
virus.
sounds like a Thorn
these
thing.
Flowers,
you know?
in a small set of ruins in Africa. But how does Tricell fit into this whole thing? Tricell is another large pharmaceutical company, a part of the GCP. They originally began as a trading company called Travis Trading. In the 1800s, Henry Travis, a descendant of the founder of the company, started his expeditions into Africa. He compiled many books on the flora and fauna of the continent and returned with this information. His brother began spreading rumors that his book was full of lies and made-up entries, but it was actually all true. Henry would die shortly after this book failed, and all of this was orchestrated by his brother so that he could use the secrets in the book to harvest resources from the land.
Which is insane. Literally gaslighting your brother's life's work so you could go steal it and not have other people know about it. Insane.
Travis Trading would eventually become Tricell after they expanded their operation to include not just shipping, but also a pharmaceutical wing and a natural resources operation. After this, the 3 heads would become Tricell. Tricell was involved in the creation of
Tricell was a huge nothing burger, never mentioned again after 5. I think they're briefly mentioned in the Resident Evil Degeneration movie. And then, like, that's the only other kind of moment. But, like, that's not a game. So it's, like, different, you know?
BSAA as well. Not appreciating the negative publicity that came along with the downfall of Umbrella and their connection to the company, they helped the anti-terrorism operation to bolster their PR. They would eventually take over this very lab where Umbrella was harvesting the progenitor virus to try and create something new. Excelligione is wrapped up in the company somehow, and so is Wesker. So those reveals are for what's to come. But
those reveals are what's to come. And don't matter at all.
Background information actually holds the secret to the whole series. How Umbrella found the virus, how they started as a company, and why these viruses still plague the world to this day. As we move through this area, we'll also encounter information hinting that a Type 3 Plagas was in development as well. We're basically told that we're going to be fighting lickers soon, and those enemies return right after.
Yep.
The game quickly starts to get pretty intense, as we can avoid all of these enemies by walking slow and not making any noise.
But that's not fun.
Or we can trigger the attacks of a dozen lickers all at once by making the wrong move.
I'm just saying, I think that's the right play.
Clearly did this wrong and was never smart enough to get through this section without it. Defeating the lickers
just
allows
walk.
us access into a deeper part of this Umbrella base. Here we find a
The generation was
massive
before 5.
facility
Oh, I know,
shaft
but
where
I'm pretty sure
hundreds
Tricell's
of
mentioned in
bodies
it.
are being stored in cryosleep.
Pretty sure.
Chris thinks Jill could be stored in one of these pods. For some reason, the facility randomly drops one of these folks to their death. Sorry, guy. Chris manages to find Jill's entry in the computer, but the elevator we're on starts moving.
Do any of the other names?
Chris manages to find Jill's entry.
Jill Valentine, Malia Gili, Bjorn Kell, Patsy Grazia, Jacob Smith, Herman Riti, Peter Almuro. Like, I don't recognize any of these people. I'm wondering if I should. Abigail Miller. Yeah, none of them.
Entry in the computer, but the elevator we're on
Just staff
starts
names? Yeah,
moving.
I'm not surprised.
It eventually stops, and we're attacked by our next boss, the absolutely massive U8. The U8 is a combination of a variety of different species.
It's a crab and
it
something
takes an
else?
armored shell from the crustacean DNA, though, which means that our bullets are pretty ineffective at piercing its outer layer. The only way to damage it is to target its mouth when it's stunned.
I mean,
we can stun the beast by firing at the pods on its legs.
Oh.
Standing in front of it is just asking to die, so we have to circle the platform and avoid the boss while it periodically spits out flying creatures to attack us. It's actually
he doesn't know. He doesn't know you could throw the grenade.
Actually a pretty decent boss battle overall, though much like the other boss battles in the game, it goes on a bit too long. It isn't that difficult, and once you get the gist of what you're supposed to do, you just rinse and repeat until it's dead.
He didn't know about the grenade.
But once you've locked in the strategy, you're almost just waiting for the battle to be over.
I mean, I didn't either. Oh.
The challenge isn't really there. After defeating it, Chris manages to
Destiny
find
not found.
Jill's
Welcome in.
pod, but her body isn't present. We get a call from Excelligione, who Sheva already knows about. She tells Chris and Jill to leave because there isn't anything here, but this is clearly a lie meant to deter our heroes. This ends chapter 5.
How many liquors does it take to get to the center of a human? 1.
5-1 and begins chapter 5-2 of the game. We're now in this Umbrella facility proper, which is our next actual area of the game.
And this is also where you run into enemies with guns for the first time, I believe.
Surrounded by familiar laboratory hallways and pumping machinery, this finale feels at home in the Resident Evil franchise.
Finale, but you're here for another hour and a half.
This introduces probably one of the strangest mechanics in the game: cover. Right at the game's latter third, it decides to introduce enemies that can use weapons.
Yeah.
Guard Magini, as the game refers to them.
I really hate
Since
this.
these enemies can shoot at us, of course, we need to take cover. but randomly the game all of a sudden becomes a cover shooter for its final couple of hours.
It's so bad.
This is such a strange choice.
I hate
and I
it.
assume it was to play on the current trends at the time, considering Gears of War was one of the biggest third-person shooter series out there.
I hate it.
The cover system is incredibly awkward.
Yep.
You can't move behind the covered barriers. You either just stay stationary or pop out to shoot. It also doesn't feel like it really fits in this game.
It's because it
makes
doesn't.
This whole last sequence feel very out of place.
It almost feels like they really expect you to get the bulletproof vest and the melee armor at this point. Why so late in the game? Resident Evil 5 struggles with pacing sometimes.
Resident Evil 5 in some ways feels like it's having an identity crisis. Like it wasn't sure what the series was about to turn into.
Yeah.
So it tried out a few different things in the interest of giving the team multiple ways forward.
Like, look how much damage that
Regardless,
did.
we move our way through this lab, often targeted by soldiers that do a
Like,
ton
that's
of damage
insane.
with rifles and rocket launchers. The combat here is more about timing rather than accuracy. Boarding an elevator, Chris taps into a transmission of Excella talking to Wesker. Chris finally realizes that his old rival is still alive. We then deal with some more lickers and have a long sequence where we have to contend with tons of enemies.
Wait, this all happens randomly, right? That he taps into the transmission, so he wouldn't have known that Wesker was alive until like way later if it wasn't for this. I hate that.
He's on these conveyor belts.
I hate
This
it.
is also a really weird section. But
I
in
hate
kind
this
of a
section
fun
too.
way. The conveyor belts are literally just pumping out exploding canisters. So this whole place
Annoying.
is Explosion City. We even meet a new monster type here, another insect called the Reaper. The Reaper can't be destroyed with raw damage. We have to
these.
target the pods on its body one by one. It isn't that threatening of an enemy because you stun them pretty fast, but it's an interesting mechanic for this game.
I hate it.
It's also unique to note that you can drag this monster onto a conveyor belt that ends in a furnace and just leave it to its fate.
Wait, you can?
After trolling
I never
around in
tried
the
that.
factory, we finally reach a lab
That's
where
kinda funny.
real research is being done.
Oh.
Pods full of
Oh, here it
fluids
is. Here's
and
the boss
test
I was talking
subjects,
about.
and a man sitting on a chair. Excella and the masked stranger are overlooking this scene. Excella basically tells Chris if he wants Ouroboros
The
so
RE5
bad,
liquors are bulkier and can reproduce now. Yes, you can find the file in the game. Oh. Ew.
here it is.
Gross.
The thing reveals itself, taking over the host. Excella says they don't plan to sell this BOW, but to use it to evolve the human species. The virus pretty quickly begins to reject its host and turns into something that we've seen before.
Oh yeah, in chapter
We
1.
fought the Ouroboros BOW already at the beginning of the game, which honestly kind of makes this reveal fall a bit flat. The boss fight itself is kind of needlessly confusing,
Yeah.
but it is supposed to be a big moment for the game. They've been hinting at the Ouroboros reveal since the beginning, but now we just get a monster that we've already encountered before. To beat Ouroboros this time, though, we don't have a fancy double-door locking furnace just lying around. We have to
No,
blast
you've got
both
something
its
else.
arms off, and only then have either Sheva or Chris burn it up with a flamethrower. Since it's weak to fire, this will cause pods to sprout from its body that are its actual weak spot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bitch to do because shooting its arms off has to be done quickly, and the monster can regrow them pretty fast.
It is so annoying, and this is literally why I like told Shia, I almost said Sheva. I told Shia when we got in to this fight that I didn't want to do it, and I just wanted to bring the rocket launcher. Because genuinely, this fight is so frustrating. Even if you just point the rocket launcher at him, or the flamethrower at him, while all of the pods are at it, feels like you're just not doing damage.
Luckily, a rocket launcher or fire grenade will put it into an automatic weak spot mode for a short period of time. Killing this thing ends Chapter 5.2 and begins Chapter 5.3.
It sucks.
Chris and Sheva
I
determine
hate
that they
it.
need to stop Wesker and Excella's plan.
It's got to be one of
so
those
we make
situations
our-
the higher-ups wanted a cover-based shooter, just add some in. Never mind, you forgot that 66% is done with the dev or corporate backroom stuff. It probably could be something like that, especially with the popularity of Gears of War. Because Gears 1, I think, was already out by this point. But Gears 2 was either right around the corner, which obviously Gears just kept getting better and better as it went on. Like Gears 1, 2, and 3, amazing trilogy, you know?
way through some more factory environments, eventually looping back.
No one ever
around
upgraded
to
any of the
another
sniper rifles, so
elevator
they're
in the
maxed for that
pods
chapter.
room. This elevator rotates as it moves
think we
up
did.
floors, though, which is incredibly disorienting since we have to shoot enemies while it moves. Easily one of the strangest design choices that this game makes.
How many times has he said that? Easily one of the strangest decisions. Why would they do something like this? Confusingly, they did this. You see what I mean? Later half of the game, the second half of Resident Evil 5, you just constantly go, why did they do this?
It made me very dizzy. Once Chris and Sheva exit the facility,
How many That's so much shotgun ammo. Huh.
and lower a bridge
Damn!
that allows them access into a tri-cell facility, we corner Excella. Then the masked stranger appears and shows off their incredible powers in a pretty cool fight scene.
Oh yeah, and Excella just leaves. Like she's just gone. So dumb. Your future hinges upon this fight.
Wesker is here too, and he makes the big reveal of the game. Yes, Jill was the masked stranger all along. You probably could have seen this coming from a mile away.
It was pretty obvious.
I know I sure did. It gets hinted at many times throughout the game, and it's basically revealed when her body is already missing from the pod.
And the fact that Sheva looks at her as she's driving away on the water ski and goes, wait a minute, isn't that... But Sheva's never seen Jill before and tells Chris that he's crazy to think that the blonde woman is Jill. You know?
Jill is actually being controlled by Wesker through this small red device on her chest.
Man.
So how does the bug work? Where was Jill all this time?
Good question.
Why does she have blonde hair? It's a pretty complicated
Why does she have blonde hair?
explanation, but it's just insane and convoluted enough to be Resident Evil.
Yeah, very much so.
Basically, Jill was captured by Wesker after they both fell out of the mansion that night.
Plenty of blondes
He
here in
wanted
Africa,
to
Chris.
exact his revenge on both Chris and Jill by experimenting on her. She had a mutated form of the T-virus inside of her, though, and Wesker decided to keep her in cryosleep. But because she was in cryosleep for so long, it turned her hair blonde for some reason.
I think it's the lack of vitamin D. But like, I think it does the opposite of that, doesn't it? Doesn't your hair get darker with a lack of vitamin D? Because like, I don't go outside much and my hair is hella dark. I'm just saying.
Cryosleep also gave her incredibly powerful antibodies against the virus. Wesker wanted to use these antibodies
becomes
to make his
Cammy.
new
Well, that's true.
Ouroboros virus less deadly.
That's true.
But once he got the strain working, he didn't need her anymore. While doing his research, though, Wesker found
Virus
a
reaction, I
completely
think. The whole
unrelated
part's dumb,
chemical
yeah.
called P30, which enhanced the abilities of a human being. This only lasted for so long, and Wesker created a device that would regularly administer the chemical, hence the red mechanical bug on her chest.
Yep.
It's absolutely batshit insane, but if you question anything too much, it all falls apart. So just don't.
Yeah, just don't question it. Just go with it. You know, science.
Jill attacks Sheva and Chris now that Wesker has fully unleashed her, and we have a boss battle against the both of them. Wesker says that he only has 7 minutes to
over
spare.
T-virus.
There's basically 2 phases to this fight. First, we have to deal with Wesker, who we really can't damage all that much because he can just dodge all of our bullets. We eventually have
That's quitter talk. You have to hide around a corner and shoot him in the face with a magnum. Come on.
to run away from him and essentially wait for the clock to tick down.
That's how you get a
After
massive
this,
jewel called the
Wesker
Heart of
determines
Africa.
We aren't
I
worth
think.
the time and leaves Jill to take care of our heroes.
No, you can beat him.
Wouldn't that be a fitting end? Chris killed by his former partner Jill, who unknowingly murdered her friend? Well, it doesn't exactly go like that.
Damn.
We then fight Jill in a sort of not really boss battle. We don't need to kill Jill here. We need to remove the bug from her chest. To do this, we have to work together with Sheva and get our new partner to hold her down so we can either pry it from her chest or shoot it. Once this is done, Jill is finally back. She was aware of everything the whole time, but she wasn't in control.
Don't kill Jill.
She tells
No.
Chris and Sheva to head off and stop Wesker while she finds a way out of here. Chris is obviously reluctant, but she convinces Chris with one line.
Don't you trust your partner?
All right.
This is
Don't you trust your partner? And it's like, man, it's it's nice to have like the theme of that constant throughout the game, but it is also very frustrating because like of all the people to say it, it's like, Jill, you're not even going with me. Why are you saying that?
pretty obviously furthering our big theme here, what it means to be a partner.
And he never
We'll
pairs up
return
with
to
Jill
this once
again.
the
You're so real for that.
story has closed out.
Man.
But for now, Chris and Sheva head outside to
partner's
see
Sheva,
Excella
so-
and Wesker boarding a ship.
True.
This ends chapter 5-3 and begins chapter 6 of the game.
Do I just not remember the scene of them walking out? Maybe I just like wiped it from my brain.
Finale. Chris and Sheva are suddenly on board
Man.
this huge ship.
One more
which we
Chris
now
and
have
Jill
to
game over.
infiltrate. This section,
Oh,
for
one more
some
game?
reason,
Yeah, I agree.
sheds the cover system that it just introduced, and we're back to the classic infected killing action.
Don't like this part.
I do like this section, but
I do not.
again, just like a lot of things in this game, it feels like it's kind of out of place.
Wow.
It doesn't really feel like we're building up to the finale for this entry.
Whoa,
Even the whole time
crazy.
we're here, the characters are asking what this tanker is being used for. That doesn't mean that the finale of this game doesn't stick the landing, but it's just paced out poorly.
Yeah,
Once it
whoa,
finally
crazy. Second half of the game paced poorly.
It's going, it doesn't stop until the credits.
Almost
but
like
the
we've
game
been
takes
saying
a
that.
while to reach that point. Once we get to the testing
Insane.
facility in this ship, Excella escapes without
This is
giving us information.
incredibly tough
once
to beat.
again. She
Feel
does
that.
manage to drop some samples of a strange chemical.
How surprising.
Exiting
Never
this
saw that
area,
coming.
We're back into standard cover game shooter again as we progress through the underside of this tanker. Eventually, we
And it
see
sucks.
Wesker, who is having another flashback. He's speaking of the Wesker children. Albert Wesker was the only one who survived. He's basically telling Wesker that he was manufactured. Spencer was trying to become a god in every way, but Wesker stole this from him, forming his own plans to reshape the world. Back out on the tanker, Chris and
It just feels like such an unnecessary thing. Like they could have killed like Spencer without needing to be like, I was meant to be a god.
Sheva see
You know?
Excella going through a mutation. A mountain of bodies stand behind her. Wesker has
Shoot her.
betrayed his
Shoot her.
muse, and she's
Shoot
going
her.
to become something more
Shoot her.
grotesque, as Ouroboros is rejecting her host as well.
I'm just saying.
This doesn't turn into the monster.
Shadow! Hey, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. My name's Roy Chiato. Look at my Chiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out. In case you couldn't tell, welcome in, guys. We are reacting to a retrospective of Resident Evil 5, going behind the scenes, checking out all the cool info you may not have known about the game, and then later we're going to be playing more of the roleplay server vcraft Enchanted with some friends. So if you like roleplay in Minecraft, which considering who you came in with, you probably do, pull up a chair, kick up your feet, enjoy some Resident Evil before we get into the good roleplay silliness, you know. Shadow, how was your stream? What were you up to?
that we saw before, though,
Hi.
it begins feeding on all the organic material around it and turns into a giant mass of tentacles and pods.
Gotta love it.
This immediately begins to take over the entire ship.
Gotta
and our
love
two
it.
heroes manage to escape unscathed. I haven't talked about this until now, but there are a ton of little cutscenes in this game.
What, are we killing the
that
host
seem
of the
like
gate,
they were
Ouroboros? I think
originally
it
meant to
should.
have QTEs. This is
Oh.
one example of that, and I'd imagine that they pulled them out at the end of development because they knew fans would have a negative reaction.
They're definitely in the game. Are they just not in the Windows version? Wait. Both Shia and I knew they were in this game. Are they just not in the PC version? You guys said that they weren't there because we had already succeeded on them. Is it just that they pulled them out of the Steam/PC versions? Because there are definitely QTEs here. Absolutely there are. Stream is good. We helped a sad nerd get buff in 100 line. Wait, I like getting buff. Wait, am I a nerd? Wait, don't answer that. I was asleep when you played this part, but yeah, they should have been
They
there.
just
That's
look
what I'm
really
saying.
goofy because we aren't inputting anything here, but Sheva and Chris keep getting caught up. The two end up escaping into
Yeah.
the tanker. We have
More
to
or
escape
less, there
this
you go.
place as the tentacles begin to break the hull.
I actually love this scene because you see out the windows and witness the monster that's waiting for us.
Yeah.
Once we get to the top, we have
I will say that part is cool. Kind of the impending looming doom.
boss battle with the mutated Excella. We stand on 2 platforms and have to damage the pods on the writhing mass in front of us. We can use this laser targeting device that communicates with the satellite that focuses and sends a fucking laser beam down to damage the boss.
I will say, I'm not usually one for going off the rails with this kind of stuff, but I really like the satellite laser.
This is one of my favorite fights in the game because the scope is just so massive. We never fought anything this large before, never went up against an
I like the satellite laser.
It's huge, and it just feels like it really gives a lot of scope to what Wesker was trying to do here. Also, it just looks cool, which is what this game is all about at the end of the day.
The rule of cool.
Eventually, we destroy this thing,
playing
and
D&D.
Chris and Sheva find Wesker ready to board a plane that will spread the
fire
Ouroboros
laser
virus across the planet. Jill contacts us and tells Chris that Wesker is getting his strength and speed from a serum that he regularly injects himself.
How do you know that?
Jill theorizes that injecting him too much could act like a poison.
How do you know
and
that?
Then her feed cuts out. It's the same chemical that we found before, so that will be the only way to defeat him. We learn here, mostly from a memo, that Wesker's plan is basically to end the world. The Ouroboros virus will mostly reject people when administered. The ones that it doesn't reject will be deemed worthy and the next evolution of the human species.
I don't love this as a plan for Wesker, because it always... This never felt like a Wesker plan to me. You know what I mean? This feels very like Bond villain or like generic Resident Evil villain. Like this feels like it should have been Excella's plan. And then a twist that Wesker didn't actually want to do this, but to use Ouroboros on himself to get stronger or something like that, you know?
This is Wesker's final form, his final plan, his last evolution and chance.
It's really
to become
stupid.
God. We have to
Ra's al
escape
Ghul
the
would have made
tanker
this
at
plan.
point,
Oh my god,
destroying all
true.
kinds of Magini and
Hate
infected
this.
insects on our way out. We finally reached.
That's what I was talking about, that section specifically, because it's so many enemies. You fight some bugs, you fight the 2 gunners, and then you finally catch up to
face
this
with
fight.
Wesker
And this
once
fight's
and
fine.
for all. He distracts Chris by throwing his glasses at him, and the 2 have a pretty great showdown.
And Chris catches the glasses, and then gets his ass kicked. Chris. Poor performance indeed. I do love all the cartwheels and the flips and stuff. It feels very Matrix, and I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Wesker
you know?
claims that he is saving the world from itself. By forcefully evolving humanity, they won't be killed off. But Wesker and Chris are confronting each other for the last time. Only one of them
Chris
is
catch the
getting
sunglasses?
out
He's got to catch his boyfriend's sunglasses.
The first phase of our boss
do you have a
battle
problem with that?
Wesker starts here,
What the heck?
and it is absolutely insane. We can only attack Wesker when he can't see us, when we're in the dark. Stupid idiot shouldn't wear sunglasses all the time.
That's what I'm saying! Listen, if he takes the sunglasses off, though, he gets a damage boost, okay? We can't have Marvel 3 up in here, all right? I want to take you for a ride.
But we don't need to actually damage Wesker here. We need to inject him with the serum that Sheva has. The way we can do this is by firing a rocket launcher at Wesker, which he can obviously stop with his superior physical ability. This stuns
Unless he
him for
catches
long enough
it.
so that we can hold him and inject him with the serum. This poisons Wesker and causes him to escape off into his jet. Chris and Sheva barely make it onto the vehicle. Face to face with Wesker again, he lets us know that there's 5 minutes left until the vehicle disperses the Ouroboros virus across the world.
Global
We get another
saturation.
badass fight scene here. Whenever Wesker's on screen, this game excels. I think it took a long time for the series to really figure out what Wesker should be, and the answer was a mustache-twirling villain that is trying to destroy the world.
See, I don't agree, but I do like this is great pinnacle Wesker, in my opinion. Resident Evil 5 does Wesker well. I just don't like the idea of him trying to basically destroy the world. It feels very like your favorite son said, mustache twirling villain. I like all of that for Wesker, except the actually destroying the world thing. You know? That's all I'm saying. Because, like, the one-liners, the toying with Chris, the, you know, poor performance indeed. Like, all of that, fucking great. Love it. The complete global saturation.
Chris eventually injects Wesker with more of the serum, and he activates the hatch on the ship. Since the plane is flying directly into the sky, everyone
The
begins to
execution is
fall out of
flawless.
the back.
Yeah.
Wesker and Sheva are about to die, but for a moment,
I give
Chris
Hail
sees
QT 10
Jill
out of 10.
in his new partner.
Yeah.
He realizes that this is his chance.
Wait, hold on a second. Flashbang aside. Jesus! Look at how big his arm is! Holy shit! Anyway.
To do what he couldn't with Jill, to redeem himself, to actually save his partner. This is the climax of the theme.
Little
that Resident
envy?
Evil 5 has
No.
been building to throughout this entire game.
It looks weird.
While it isn't overt, there's a bit of a disconnect at the beginning of the game between Sheva and Chris. Chris is constantly talking about his partner, which he still considers to be Jill.
Yeah.
You almost feel bad for Sheva because
on that stuff
Chris
for a while,
is
it's
focusing
true.
so much on Jill when he has a partner right here that he's just looking past. Sheva has to prove herself before Chris will even realize this, going off the planned mission and heading with him to look for Jill.
But does she really prove herself? She never has moments of development other than I'm going with you. That's it. That's her entire fucking character.
The game even seems confused on who Chris's actual partner is.
People
because
roleplayed
if
in
Sheva
chat. Oh my
dies at
God,
any
yeah,
point
we've
during
had that
the game,
before.
we get a game
Oh.
over, and the game over screen tells us your partner is dead. But the same message is displayed if we accidentally kill Jill during her boss fight.
Yep.
The theme here is clear. Chris is still stuck on Jill as
But
his
Roy,
partner.
her parents
He
died or
cares
whatever. I
about
don't
her
fucking
clearly.
care.
And if he moved on
did
and
Sherry's.
forgot about her, then he wouldn't have saved her life in this game. But Chris also harbors a lot of unspoken
I'm sure Jill's
guilt
did
here
too.
for what happened. He wishes that he could have saved Jill that night, and he considers it his mission
Because of remakes,
to
you can fix all
right
this?
that
Yeah.
wrong,
'Cause it-
if possible.
Because if they do, they could make Sheva a great character. I think they could make her and Josh both great characters. But yeah, there's just so many flaws.
He does right that wrong by saving Jill, but he doesn't even realize that he has another partner here that he needs to hold up his end for as well.
Yeah.
And he does this in the end. He saves
Can Chris fight Leon? I think Leon wins. I think if Leon and Chris are fighting and they both have similar loadouts, I think Leon wins. Leon has, well, we're not talking about RE2, because if it's RE2 Leon, it's RE1 Chris. And in which I would say Chris wins. But if we're talking like modern Chris versus modern Leon, I'm going to give it to Leon. Leon's training is insane. Leon trained with special forces and did an insane amount of missions working for the Secret Service under the president. He wins. Like, Chris obviously has giga training, is very strong, is very powerful, is weapon trained. He did not have the same training that Leon did. He did not. And it literally comes down to a difference of training. Leon's going to do shit that Chris is not expecting. Leon is literally he's gonna break rules. He's gonna set up landmines. He's gonna, do crazy bullshit. He's gonna do, spinning roundhouse kicks. Yeah.
Sheva, and this story comes full circle.
There's the full circle.
I love the overall theme for this game, and it feels far more personal than any other Resident Evil game has been so far.
Agreed, and it's why I always complain that the DLC, Lost in Nightmares, the one with Jill, should have just been the tutorial for the game. Absolutely should have just been the tutorial.
It's a very wholesome story and gives Chris a ton of depth in the overall scheme of things. I do think this whole story would fit a lot better if Jill did actually die in that mansion that night. Of course, that would be a bold move to kill a large series character off screen.
Yeah,
and show
off
it in a
screen.
DLC, but it definitely would have made Chris's journey more impactful. Regardless, Chris completes his journey and saves Sheva.
Or maybe if Jill had to sacrifice herself again and Chris is like, I couldn't, save you. You know, that would have been
Comes
fucked.
just before the ship is about to crash into a currently active volcano. Wesker falls out of the ship beforehand, and Chris and Sheva end up walking around this mountain. Wesker is, of course, still alive, but what better place for our final fight of this game than in the center of an actual fucking volcano?
Yeah,
This fight
actually
is nothing less than insane. Chris punches a boulder, Wesker uses a tornado move with his new tentacles. It's the wildest this series has gotten to this point. This boss battle is a collaborative effort between Chris and Sheva. The two are split up at the beginning, and Sheva has to distract Wesker so that she can get over to where we are. Like I said, Chris punches a fucking boulder.
I don't even think
because
we
of
got
his
that scene.
swole status, and the two are reunited. Once this happens, we have to target the pod/heart on Wesker's chest to finally kill him.
Yeah,
Chris and
I
Sheva
hated
get
this.
rescued by Jill and Josh, but this game could only end in one way. Chris and Sheva fire dual rocket launchers to finally finish off Wesker for good.
You son of a bitch.
And they just miss. It just goes into the lava, you know?
The four fly off into the sunset as Chris narrates his final thoughts on what just happened.
More and more, I find myself wondering if it's all worth fighting for. For a future without fear?
Oh my god, dude. I hated this.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Also, weird that it doesn't go to Josh. Josh was a part of the story too.
This is the end of Resident Evil 5, but the game would actually release 2 DLCs that
Just when he
would
was
work to
decapitated
expand
by the
story a
rocket. I
bit
don't think so. I think it
and
just goes
show
past
us
his head.
Some of the unseen. The first DLC that was released for the game was titled Lost in Nightmares.
Great
This
DLC.
short DLC places us
It was only like 30-40 minutes though.
in the shoes of
but
both
great.
Chris and Jill as they infiltrate the Spencer estate. To be clear, this is not the Spencer mansion from the first game, though it is a near replica of that building. This is the true Spencer estate, where the founder of Umbrella actually lives. Chris and
RE6 was
Jill
wild.
are
We're
here
gonna
to
get
seek
there.
out the man in the hopes of finding
We get there
Wesker.
next week.
Much of the first half of this DLC is just us solving puzzles in a mansion, and honestly, I loved it.
Yeah,
it was a
it's
breath
super
of fresh
fun.
air after an action-packed main campaign. I can't exactly say that this is what Resident Evil 5 should have been, because then I don't think it would have really been Resident Evil 5. Plus, I don't think it would have done as well with the new audience that the series had garnered after Resident Evil 4.
That I will agree with. A big thing that I will always say is that despite the polarizing opinions that people, myself included, have about things like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 5 and then Resident Evil 6 broke sales numbers for Resident Evil as a franchise. So despite it not being popular with, series veterans, it was still incredibly popular among casual people, way more easily approachable.
After solving enough puzzles to enter the underground area of the estate, we do get some combat
with the
against
crowd.
the monsters of this manor. We eventually fall down a shaft and lose our weapons, though. This neat section sees us having to lure enemies into traps since we have no other way to kill them.
I didn't hate
It's
this part with
pretty
Shia.
intense, and
I
it
hate
was
this part
easily my favorite part of the DLC.
other times.
Solving this puzzle, though, gets us to Spencer's office, where we see the confrontation between him and Wesker. Wesker kills Spencer, and we have our face-off against him. Wesker is an incredibly annoying boss here because we basically just wait him out, but we have to survive a ton of QTEs, which require a lot of precision. Of course, we know how this ends, but the majority of the grand reveals for this sequence happen in the files of the game. Wesker met Spencer at his estate because Spencer had begun purging the company of any executives that might have knowledge of their secret programs.
Did RE7 and RE8 fare better sales-wise? I know RE7 did. I don't know how RE8 did sales-wise, but I'm sure it did better than RE7. Or I'm sure RE8 did better than RE7. But I know for certain that RE7 did outsell RE6 100%. Yeah.
One of these programs was to essentially become a god and start the world
To
anew.
become a god.
Spencer needed 3 things for this plan to come to fruition: the progenitor virus, the Umbrella Corporation, and Wesker. Wesker was basically an idealized person that he had created in his mind. Someone that could succeed the new world in ideals and logic.
Yep.
Because the virus would only change
Okay,
physical
Goldman.
capabilities, he had to ensure that the new world only contained people with reason and intellect. So he collected children that exhibited these qualities, calling them the Wesker children. Albert Wesker was one of these, and they were all placed in controlled environments, watched by Umbrella from afar. Albert was the only child that showed promise and was eventually administered the virus through William Birkin. This, of course, aggravates Wesker when he is told that his life is essentially a pre-programmed lie, and he kills Spencer for it. But it doesn't really matter because Wesker is dead anyways.
Yeah.
The final DLC released for the game was called Desperate Escape,
which I don't
sees
like.
us playing Jill Valentine and Josh Stone.
It's kind of... It's not good. See House of the Dead 2? I love House of the Dead. House of the Dead's my favorite arcade game of all time.
As the two try to secure an escape route after Jill is saved by Chris. This DLC has a lot less going for it. It honestly just feels like another chapter in Resident Evil 5.
That's what I
where
said!
we run through the ship and take down enemies.
That is what I
basically
said!
Just more combat. Nothing really special here.
Yes!
The finale sequence is okay. We have to wait out a timer on a roof and defend ourselves from a ton of infected all at once. When the pilot arrives to save the two, an infected shoots him with a rocket that somehow only damages the pilot and not our two heroes. But Josh and Jill manage to escape anyways, and obviously they set out to rescue Sheva and Chris after this.
And it's quite literally why there's no pilot aside from Jill and Josh in this section. Yeah, Doug! Oni! Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. Hi, guys. My name is Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I absolutely love working out, in case you couldn't tell. Welcome, guys. We're just finishing up this retrospective video of Resident Evil 5, since we played all of it last week with Shia, and next week we're playing the first half of Resident Evil 6 with Shia. So we are continuing with the Resident Evil franchise retrospective. But after we finish this video, we're going to be diving into the Minecraft roleplay server that I'm playing with a bunch of awesome VTubers. So we'll be diving into that. So if you guys like Minecraft and roleplay, stick around. It's going to be really fun. How are your thoughts so far on RE5 specifically? I think... So, ironically, I agree very much with the title for the video, Flawed and Fun. Shia and I had very, very similar opinions when we played last week. We beat it on one sitting. It was shorter than we thought it was going to be. It's really fun in the beginning. The story seems pretty tight. The action sequences and the cinematography that's filmed in the game actually feels really good and filmed like an action movie at times, but the game really, really loses the plot as it goes on. It gets silly, chapters drag on, they introduce mechanics that just don't make sense. Some of the scaling of the game's enemies just aren't fun, especially the stuff that happens in the tanker when it's exploding and you're chasing after Wesker. Yeah, it kind of loses the plot. It's a little crazy. Which story in RE6? I think Shia and I are going to do Chris and Jake's campaigns first, and then leave Leon and Ada's for the following week, is what we decided. So I'll be Chris, and Shia will be Piers. I will be Jake or Sherry. Actually, we didn't talk about who's going to be Jake and who's going to be Sherry. But yeah. RE5 is flawed, but so fun. Because despite all the flaws that Shia and I have with the game, with the story, with how it feels at times, it is just undeniably fun. It is like the most fun 7 out of 10 you'll have with a friend. Get some drinks, get some food, set aside like a night or two, and just play through Resident Evil 5, and you'll have a blast. It's so much fun. So, yeah.
The real shining star in the
Real
extras
true,
mode
I
of Resident
agree.
Evil 5 is, of course, the Mercenaries mode.
Mercenaries!
While I love Resident Evil 4's Mercenary mode in both the original
Mercenaries
and the
5 is
remake,
really good.
Resident Evil 5 has an arcade shooter that is just downright addictive.
It's so
There are a
good.
ton of different characters, multiple areas to fight in, massive
It's so
variety.
good.
Mercenaries works just like Resident Evil 4.
It's
we
so
have 2
good.
minutes to kill as many enemies as
And
possible.
it's got Rebecca! And Barry.
And killing enemies in quick succession will increase our combo meter. We can find time crystals around the map that will increase our time, and even combo time pickups that will make combos easier for a short period.
So
I played
good.
this Mercenaries mode for
The
far
zebra
too
print's so
long.
fucking good.
I just couldn't.
If you go back, but I don't know if you saw, or Oni, if you guys saw, if either of you saw the Shia and I playthrough of Resident Evil 5. So I played as Chris and Shia played as Sheva, which I think you can. Yep. Oh, that's the other one. Hold on. Where's the? Let me change the art. There we go. So I was Chris and Shia was Sheva. And I played in the Road Warrior outfit for Chris, the one where he's like basically shirtless except for like spiked pauldrons. And then Shia played in the tribal outfit for Sheva, where she's basically just in a bikini. But yeah, this is super fun. Yeah, it's great. It was great.
Stop trying to get a higher score, trying to do better and perfect my path.
Of course,
through
she's in a
these
bikini.
areas.
Yeah,
It was equal parts intense,
It do be
fun,
like that.
and
It do be.
rewarding. I can't exactly say which of the Mercenaries mode is best, but this one's certainly up there.
it's up there.
Resident Evil 5 as a whole is a great game for what it is.
I
the game
agree.
has a ton of problems, but Resident Evil 5 feels so
lot of
unique
problems.
that it wouldn't really be what it
lot of
is
problems.
without its
Oh my
mistakes.
God.
Comparing this game to the last game is this
Wow.
weird tale of two opposites. While the games are incredibly similar at their foundation, they verge in their general appeal. Resident Evil 4 is a game that comes very close to perfection,
I
nailing
agree.
almost every aspect
Close to
of the
perfection,
project.
but not
The
quite.
mechanics all work so
That dynamite killed that dude, but not Leon.
Go
That was
well
so.
with each other. It's a
Never mind, I lied.
web of interlocking design techniques that create something much larger than itself. Resident Evil 5 is a product that you sort of have to take at face value. You have to take the mistakes along with its perfections.
Yeah.
It's a flawed game, but that's sort of what makes it great.
We're streaming for 12 hours, so I'll lurk for now. Have a good stream. Yeah, take care, Oni. I hope you had a good one. Hope you got some good stuff done today. I don't know what you were up to, but if you did have fun, glad to hear it. Get some good rest. I'm sure you deserve it.
Because even if there's some things that it does wrong, it feels like the game takes risks in other places to make up for it.
I'd always be interested in
The
seeing them
resulting
remaking
project
5.
is-
I agree, Chris. Both Shia and I said it, because Resident Evil 5 has very obvious flaws that can be fixed. But we were saying that like Code Veronica or Resident Evil 0 are going to be harder to fix. So I'm absolutely down for fixing Resident Evil 5 first, personally. But, you know, I'm also down for them to go back and fix 0 or Code Veronica. But if they go back to 0, make it proper co-op, please.
This weird kind of wacky action game that just massively goes over the top. It feels like this game could have only been made in this era.
Yeah.
I don't really like saying you couldn't make this game today, but it's kind of true with Resident Evil 5. And it's not because people wouldn't like it, but just because we take franchises a lot more seriously now. Resident Evil
Devil May Cry had a whole scene with Dante in a fedora moonwalking. I'm just saying, Capcom has known to, in modern history, to be a little silly. Ethan Winters gets his hand cut off in Resident Evil 8 and then reattaches it and curses a bunch. You crazy bitches. You know, I'm just saying. Capcom still knows how to be silly.
5 makes so many
I'm just
missteps
saying.
along the way, though. It feels like it takes so many steps backwards. So many things that Resident Evil 4 did to move the series in a new direction. Resident Evil 5 just wipes those away.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the game isn't just fun to play.
I agree.
This game excels at being just a great action game with good mechanics and a decent story to back it up.
I concur.
The game is quite held up by its finale, but the rest of the game is worth focusing on as well. Despite
Except for Chapter 5. Chapter 5 and Chapter 4 are both very rough. If we go from Chapter 3 right to, like, the ending bits of Chapter 5, I'm in.
its issues, Resident Evil 5 was incredibly successful with fans.
Absolutely.
It sold very well, in the end becoming the best-selling entry in
What
the
did I say?
franchise at the time.
What did I say?
It was also praised by critics, with the game scoring an 84 out of 100 on Metacritic. Regardless of whether this game gets a remake in the future, it still stands as a really unique entry in the series.
And if you have a co-op partner, go play it. By the way, Roy, any plan on the Devil May Cry series? I love the Devil May Cry series, and I have played all of them. If they ever announce a new Devil May Cry project, or if your favorite son or someone similar does a Devil May Cry retrospective, I would love to go back and play them again. Especially Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5, one of my favorite. It is my favorite Devil May Cry, and the fact that it's the most recent one. And Johnny Young Bosch, obviously, is Nero, freaking crushes it. He makes Devil May Cry so fun. I love JYB as Nero. It's why I'm kind of sad that he takes over for Dante in the anime, because to me, JYB is Nero, and Nero's my favorite character. And I'm scared if they do more Devil May Cries in the future that he won't be Nero. And I'm like, please.
The next entry would be a lot more divisive and would mark the sign of another change for the series moving forward. But we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. Bye, son. All right, everybody, remember to thank your favorite son for another amazing video. Be sure to give them a like, a thumbs up, a subscription if you have not already. Yeah, your favorite son, very kind enough to allow me to react to their videos live on stream. Very fortunate enough for that. They've done amazing retrospectives thus far. Every single game that we are reacting to in the Resident Evil mainline series, we are watching a video from your favorite son. So obviously we finished Resident Evil 5s. They already have the Resident Evil 6, 7, 8, and the Revelations 2 videos done. So the Revelations 2 video actually came out like a week or two ago. It was like real recent. Yeah, see, 10 days ago, the Revelations 2 video came out. Isn't that crazy? They knew that I was coming back. All right. Alrighty, guys, that does bring us to the end of our movie time for the Resident Evil 5 retrospective. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed. I think this is a great time to put Resident Evil 5 to rest for the time being. Unless there's ever a Resident Evil 5 remake that ever comes out, which I would definitely be down to play. I love Resident Evil 5. It is, ironically, one of my favorite Resident Evil games purely to play with a friend. And looking back at the playthrough that I had with Shia, we had so much fun. Shia and I had such a blast, and obviously now my memories of Resident Evil 5 are always going to be of Shia. So if you guys want to check that out, please go check out the YouTube VOD on the YouTube channel that you're currently watching. So go check it out. It's awesome. We played it last week in one sitting, and we did the Lost in Nightmares DLC. So we didn't do it deathless, but we almost did. So for now, while it might sound like I'm ending, I'm only switching the YouTube stream. So if you're a YouTube VOD watcher, make sure that you check out my Minecraft stream coming up right after this. So guys, sit tight. I'm going to take a quick break, use the bathroom, grab some water, and we're going to start a starting soon screen for the next YouTube stream. I'll get that started now. Twitch, you guys don't have to worry about going anywhere, but we are switching over into Minecraft. So I'll see you guys in a few minutes, okay? Sit tight. I'll be right back. Ah!